Hello, everyone. This is Apostle Babe Linda James. I'm here with Matthew Mellis Gray. Did I say your middle name correctly? Matthew Mellis Gray. That's his full name. We call him Matthew or Matt, whatever we're in the mood to do. And I tell you every single week that I am your favorite apostate because I keep telling you over and over again, I am convinced that I will brainwash you to believe it, that I am your favorite apostate. And it makes the word apostate not so, demonized, right? The definition of apostate, if you look it up, it says somebody that's changed their religious or political belief to that of another. And that is what I've done. The belief system that I grew up with within the organization was that of Jehovah's Witnesses, and that has definitely changed. So when the organization describes it, they describe being an apostate as turning away from God, right? And of course, God only works and does things within that organization. So if I left the organization, that equals I left God. But that wasn't really the case. So, and it doesn't have to be the case with you. So terms like apostate and worldly has been very demonized, and that falls under loaded language when you take a word and you give it more meaning on top of what the original meaning is, or if you take a word and literally change the definition of it so that when people talk and they say the word, it equals whatever the other definition is rather than the one that's in the dictionary. So loaded language is very, very useful within religions and within cults especially. And what it does is it separates us from them being those that are not using the same loaded language that they are using. So that it gives that very us and them mindset, us being the good guys and them being the bad guys, right? We were taught that anybody outside of the organization, which was referred to as Jehovah's organization, is under the influence of the devil. So when they speak of somebody leaving the organization, it's spoken of as though we've left Jehovah and we've gone and joined the devil and the devil's endeavors. So it's very bad to where if you don't follow the shunning instructions, it makes you to where you think to yourself, oh, I don't want to associate with somebody who's, got the devil around them. So that it's part of a smear campaign that happens when somebody leaves. And it's said that this is to keep the congregation clean. But in actuality, what it's done is silence the person that left. That's what it really does, because you won't want to ask them anything. You won't want to hear their side. You believe what you've heard from the spiritual leadership, and they've talked a whole lot of, speaking of one of the terms they use, mentally diseased. Does that not sound like something you might catch, like it's contagious? So if you hang out with somebody who's mentally diseased, you might get that disease too, right? So I found it fascinating. I know I go all over the place, but it makes sense to me in my head. So I found it fascinating in Norway when they were using the terminology of distancing, social distancing, right? That's the term that they were using for shunning. Well, why was it suggested 5 years ago for us to be in a place of social distancing because there was something very contagious out there. That's why. See how this works together here? So yeah, it's a whole lot of, you really shouldn't be around the person who once knew the truth, which is also a loaded word for a Jehovah's Witness. The Jehovah's Witness teachings, and has left, and it's assumed that they've gone and joined the devil. So an example, and I know I've brought it up many times, an example of loaded language is, so how long have you been in the truth? And that really means, how long have you been a baptized member of Jehovah's Witnesses? That's what that really means. So if somebody outside of the organization has never heard that terminology, it might put them off, or it might make them curious. So either way, it draws them closer to it to want to find out more, or it almost gives them an aversion to be away from it, to not want to be around it. Kind of works like that. So yeah, that's an example of loaded language. What's on your mind today, Matthew?
I have questions, Linda James, because as you're talking, I'm thinking all kinds of stuff, because here's a question that comes up with this idea of a person who's become apostate. And of course, I've played with your name, but many a truth said in jest, I've gone, okay, apostate babe, I can do that. I can say, yes, this is apostate babe Linda James, because clearly you've embraced this. But I've also gone, well, hang on a second. I also embrace this idea of Deborah under the palm trees commanding the soldiers, the thousands, the tens of thousands, and this. And I go, well, this is also apostle babe, because in Revelation, there is no distinction, because you've got the stars held in Christ's hands, and in that imagery that was given to John, the apostle John. And there is also, scripture says that there is no Greek, there is no Jew, there is no male nor female.
Yeah.
And I go, well, technically speaking, you fall into this category. I realize all of these things can be debated, but there's no reason why you don't fall into that category of apostle. Why not? Or if you don't fit that, then at least if you in JW think, what of the example of Deborah? So Deborah was prophetess, and you have this, and what was going on there, folks? So if we are holding to the Bible, and we're holding to all of these teachings, well, who's the apostate? So that was one angle that was coming in. The other angle that came in here was, we have a very unusual situation from the JW side, in that it was announced that many had done something that was doctrinally incorrect. I mean, if you go to one of the principal books, and I'm not talking about the Bible here, because the principal study book to become a JW is this Life in Paradise book. So you've got this dreamy picture of like New Eden on the front cover, or on this road to everlasting life, this narrow road idea. You've got these kind of images. In that book, it talks about, and maybe I should say, trigger warning, folks, here it comes, so brace yourself. Is it wrong in JW culture to have abortion? And the other thing that's come up there is it wrong in JW culture to donate blood so that somebody else takes it? Because we're not talking about donating your own blood. We're talking about if somebody has an accident and they hit the right kind of category in the medical field, that they've lost too much blood, they'll say, well, we can, go to the blood bank and see what we can pull out here and match it. But from JW side, you can't donate blood. That's an offense. That would have you as an apostate if you did that.
Mm-hmm.
So we have discussed in the past, I heard you bring it up, and I went into a big investigation on this, that as a JW right now, today, besides the fact that you can donate your own blood and have it re-administered to yourself, given back, as the governing body says, given back. They didn't say transfused, they said
That's
given
right.
back.
That
But it is
so
a
correct.
transfusion. It's a transfusion. But a JW is allowed to have, if this was a bag of blood,
Yes.
if that was a bag of blood, and that represented 75% of that bag, you are allowed 75% of the fractionalized harvest of that bag of blood. So in other words, if you had all the components as a jigsaw, you would be allowed that much, and that much would not be allowed. 75%.
You're showing an
And-
example of somebody else's blood rather than our own.
Yeah. So okay, thanks for sharpening that up. So out of that packet of blood, as a JW, you are allowed 75%. And
Wow.
it can be a conscience matter, right? So this is this jigsaw puzzle. But where did that blood come from? It's not genetically grown in some clone factory. It doesn't
Right.
come from there. It comes from the blood bank, where it's school children perhaps that are donating blood, or teenagers that are donating blood, or all the various places where they've screened individuals to donate blood. And that's where the fractions have come from, which is ethically incorrect from JW side. In other words, which one in the governing body, which one in the branch, which one in the congregation would have donated blood so that the persons could have received 75% blood to begin with? Now, here's where it gets interesting, because during the worldwide plan, demic, during that time, demic, I'm playing with the word, obviously.
Some people do see it that way and others don't. And you're sharing an opinion, and I value your opinion. Go on.
Thanks for that. Okay, great. So I'm trying to break up the word to
That's cool too. Very
to
good.
confuse the AI on YouTube. But so during that, what did the Bethel announce had happened? They said that 98% had taken this thing. But how was it produced? It was produced at the time based on cell lines. And I've heard persons go, cell lines? What cell lines, man? Cell lines. Cell lines at that particular time.
Welcome, Dave.
Hello, Dave.
Diamond Dave is in the house. Yay.
For a little bit. It's coming up on my bedtime here, so.
Okay. Good to have you. Matthew's talking about our belief system of blood. Not ours, but there's the belief system that the organization holds, and we're kind of challenging it, and yet accepting it. We're just, what are we doing, Matthew? What would we call this that you're talking? What would
we were doing the bike model, and I was responding to the reaction I had when you were going through this, because JW's never had a situation where publicly 98% have essentially, according to the current doctrine, and how the Catholics responded to this situation, who are advising JW, like Massimo Intravine was an advisor.
Yes.
98% have declared publicly, according to the leadership, that they are apostate.
98
They haven't
Jehovah's Witnesses?
at the branch at the world headquarters.
Because they took part of something that the governing body was encouraged people in the congregation to receive?
Yes, which was a
okay?
conscience matter. But if you ask the question, how was that produced? Don't guess it. How was it produced? It was unethical, according to and they haven't made any adjustments that has updated that. If you say to Bethel, Bethel, here's the proprietary list of how to make this substance. Tell your purchasing department to get cracking and obtain the materials. They could not obtain the materials ethically. Every single one of them would be disfellowshipped for unrepentantly breaking God's law according to JW culture and law.
And just for those that are not familiar with the Jehovah's Witness organization doctrine, Jehovah's Witnesses do not take blood transfusion, and it was that way for quite a long time. Around 2000, the governing body said that it was okay to take blood fractions, and they said, upon whatever. So blood fractions were something that was allowed for Jehovah's Witnesses to take. And during this time, up until now, 2026, there's been synthetic blood that's been worked on, and different hospitals do specialize in bloodless medicine, okay? And today, what has been a recent announcement from the governing body is that, and it has always been not okay, is for us to store some of our own blood on a shelf somewhere or whatever, and be able to use it for an upcoming operation that we might be getting ready for, our own blood. Even on the no blood cards that we would all carry around, it would literally say not to take our own stored blood. That was a forbidden thing. So today, the governing body has decided that we can do that. So that's another change in the blood doctrine. Then we're talking about a situation that people were encouraged to Operation something warp. President Trump worked out something that could help with that time. And so there's also thoughts that some of it was done in certain ways that seem really wrong. Now, Matthew's also talking about those that are Jewish, authentically Jewish mindsets and, the Jehovah's Witness belief system. Within the Jewish belief system, they do not believe a soul or a body of a baby is not alive until they take their first breath out of the womb. Okay?
Same with us.
Okay. Yeah. So, and that's taken from the Jewish belief system. So, and when Diamond Dave says so with us, he's speaking of his time within Mormonism. Is that correct?
No, I'm Hindu. So from the Hindu belief system, yeah. So that's Hindu.
Oh, okay.
Mormonism is very similar to Christianity, which is why they're very against abortion and even until recently contraceptives, because the souls, like the spirit babies you might have heard of, the belief is, all the souls are in the pre-existence and they need to come down to earth.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm really glad I asked you this. So you were saying this is part of the Hindu belief system.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. I'm so glad I asked you about that. Also, what we found out too is that the governing body would make statements of this certain brand was okay. And what that really equaled in some of our heads was that there was no blood involved in the making of this solution that was considered a solution, right? So, but what we also found out is that they, meaning the organization, not necessarily the governing body themselves, as these older men, the organization, have invested in Pfizer and a couple of others. So by them recommending what would be safe for us to take, in our minds, it has no blood in it, they're also benefiting by profiting in promoting a certain brand. So there's that.
So Linda James, how you tackled that complex situation is incredible, but it gives us an idea of the mental gymnastics that's involved here.
Right.
Because in JW culture, and I'm looking up the principal teaching book here, which is called Enjoy Life Forever, and I'm on lesson 38, which is talking about abortion. And it says, what convinces you that Jehovah values the lives of both a mother and her unborn baby? And it's just showing, do you respect, love, and safeguard Jehovah's gift of life? And it's showing that Jehovah feels really bad when somebody deliberately puts an end to human life, which in JW culture happens when the male seed meets the female egg. And under microscopes, it's been shown, and we can verify this one just to fact check it, you get this flash of light, which is the reaction with the zinc. So in JW mind, when they see that, they go, there is your flash of life, not just light, but it makes that sacred.
And there is controversy in that as well, but it is very much a mainstream belief within mainstream Christianity as well as Jehovah's Witnesses. Yeah.
So from a JW point of view, if a sister in the religion had taken a morning after pill, then that becomes a tribunal or judicial arrangement. That person has disrespected life from that point of view, and this is considered from a JW mindset. And remember, I just need to give a trigger warning. From a JW mindset, that would be considered a murder or a killing from JW perspective, right? So so now, for even though it's come to light that yes, there were these shares in various medical companies that looks like, oh, this is incentivized to support those companies, with 8 to 9 million subscribers that are of a particular mindset where you can tell them build a kingdom hall for free or build an assembly hall for free. You can get them to do all kinds of things, buy tablets, which means that you're using lithium. You can sway them more than having 9 million YouTube subscribers or subscribers on a social media. This is a very special, valuable class of personality here, profile, that's very, very useful for all kinds of things. So there was never this exposure when a person was filling in their blood card, where now somebody approaches an elder or a group of elders who lead the congregation spiritually. That's the theory.
Right.
They say, well, how do I fill in my card when it comes to fractionalization? These components, the 75% of this bag. How do I fill that in? Can you give me guidance? Because I wasn't at that time allowed to go to higher education. I now rely upon those who've been educated spiritually and who have got the qualifications to tell me how to navigate this. If it's a conscience matter, I now meet with the elders to discuss these things, because you have the knowledge. And if you don't, you can write into the branch, which has JW doctors, and they can tell me. That's why I am donating money, so that we can pay for all of these resources. And where I don't have that information, there is this facility of lawyers, and there's this facility of scientists, and there's this facility of doctors that have been approved by the organization and by the governing body and the faithful and discreet slave class to tell me how this thing works. But when I do that, guess what happens? I'm told, no, we don't meet with you to do these things, or we tell you, no, that is a conscience matter and we're not meeting with you. But some elders didn't know this. And so they wrote away to the branch and they said, how do we reconcile this? Only to be told that there is no specific answer for that. We have to wait upon Jehovah for the answer, and we have to trust the leadership, which means that they don't know or that they do know, and now there is a delay tactic. But it was a time-sensitive thing. And so people had to make a decision. So they said, well, we're having to make a decision. We see that there is information about how ethically these things were harvested, and it doesn't sit right with us. We have to reject it. And so many persons were put into a situation of saying, according to their Bible-trained conscience, according to current doctrine, they cannot do this. And their jobs were on the line. They were saying, well, we've come through all sorts of things. We've come through Nazi Germany, folks. We've come through Malawi, where people were being fed to the crocodiles. Think that we shy away from imprisonment, or that we shy away from death threat? We don't. We will do whatever it takes in order to keep our conscience clean before God. To God and self be true is the idea. And actually, it was on the basis of this kind of principle that you had our French brethren in JW culture get together and disfellowship or remove the governing body in if you want to say it was performative, they delivered a message. The persons are saying, no, that's not legitimate. But in fact, what they did was they took the publications and said, but on the basis of these publications, do these people stand to still have leadership? Now, here's the situation why JW spiritually is in trouble. Because you cannot have a leader who has compromised doctrine now arrange for a tribunal for themselves. It is called a conflict of interests. That is what it is. That's in legal speak, and it exists even within the JW culture. In other words, if you have an elder who is the Kobe, the coordinator of the body of elders, if he commits, let's do this one, fornication. Let's say he's caught in adultery or fornication. He cannot arrange the judicial or the tribunal committee. He can't do that. He can't do that because he is the person that has been accused. That is called a conflict of interests. So he would have to submit to persons that in JW culture are considered spiritually clean, according to the principle of James 5, like it says, a righteous man, supplication when it is at force has much work. So it quotes Elijah as being one of those examples of a righteous person who was heard by God because he could command the rain. He could speak to God and say, God, please withhold the rain or bring the rain. And so it's saying, well, that there was no communicative barrier between him and the divine, or between him and God, or as in JW culture, Jehovah, Yahweh, because he has control of the elements, which is a sign that the prophet is at work, which is what Jesus, when he was on the earth in JW culture, he was performing miracles. He could change the water to wine, and this was evidence that even the Pharisees said, well, look, on the account of his works, we're in trouble if we fight against this person because his power is demonstrable. So this is, now folks, this might be triggering all kinds of things in the audience, and I appreciate this, but it shows that JW has never come across this kind of fracture. And in the parallel system, if you want to talk about Catholicism, the Pope had to intervene for the cardinals because of the ethical crisis, because of the stands that Catholics were making according to abortion and their practice of birth control, which has been a big thing. And the Pope had to absolve persons of guilt. That's what they did. But this never came up in JW culture because the persons who were advising, like your Massimo Intervenes, were saying, this is a no-go area. Do not discuss this, because as soon as you discuss It dismantles the conflict of interest, and persons see that there is less than 2% left that can lead spiritually according to current doctrine. Even if you come and you now change policy like the blood change, which says that you can now take your own blood, it's too little too late. As soon as you are issuing new direction, you're already in a compromised situation. It's never happened like this. And it looks like your remaining persons are sitting in France. That's your new governing body, technically speaking.
Could be, yeah.
Does that make sense to everybody? Dave, is that making weird sense to you, or I don't know?
No, but I mean that kind of. I'll be honest, that kind of went all over the place, but it's okay. It's okay. I mean, we'll process.
If you're familiar with Operation Warp Speed, you might be knowing what we're talking about.
I'm familiar with Operation Warp Speed. I was just still kind of thinking about like the abortion thing and like what Matthew was talking about with the fracture, because the fracture is happening in Mormonism, but it's different. So instead of the fracture being around like blood or like contraceptives, for instance, the fracture is actually around the LGBT community.
Yes, I picked up on that too. Yes.
Yeah, so that's kind of where the actual like fracture is, and there's not really something that I talk about all the time on the podcast, and I think the JWs are also in a similar situation from what it sounds like, is that they're having to straddle, the Mormon church is having to straddle from on one side, they're straddling the fence, right? So they want to please their conservative tithe-paying members and the true believers because that's the core base.
Absolutely.
But they also want to be seen as more progressive and more inclusive and more along the lines of like modern day Christianity. And that's something it sounds like the JW fractures either is now or could become, where they're just having to straddle between two sides that's getting wider and wider. And at some point they're going to have to pick a direction, right?
So, but then, am I interrupting? I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, just the last bit was like they're going to have to pick a side, otherwise they're going to have a split.
Yes.
And that's when things collapse. Or you become Mormons and you have 50 bazillion offshoots running around Utah.
Yeah. So you had an amount of your history within Mormonism. So Mormonism actually went to Utah because I don't know if I've mentioned this before with you around, Dave, is that because different states were just running them out of the town and running them out of the state because they could not agree with some of their belief systems. They decided to go to Utah when it was still part of Mexico.
Yeah. Well, the main reason is polygamy. The main reason is polygamy. Main reason is polygamy, but I mean, there is also the fact that Joseph Smith did burn down the the Nauvoo Expositor. He burned down like a printing press who was printing bad things about him. He also had an anti-bank bank was what he called it, and to no one's surprise, that thing collapsed, and a lot of people were pissed. And, they lost tons of money. So that was also a factor in them getting pushed out. But another factor, too, is that the Mormons, when they would go somewhere, they would try and take it over.
Yes. And they today have the belief system to get people within government so that when, Jesus returns, they'll be in places of higher authority and be able to help God or Jesus help him rule the kingdom, God's kingdom on earth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And see, polygamy, biblically, there is polygamy going on in the Bible, right? And with the belief system that there's pre-existent spirits that are looking forward to being born into this earth through different mothers, if a man has more women, it would be pleasing God to bring more and more of these pre-existent spirits to the earth. That's, and not so much today, but it used to be that then they could look forward to having their own planet or kingdom or something to that effect.
That's still a thing.
Is
It's
it?
not explicitly stated by the church, but if you go on like Word Radio and other like podcasters, they'll joke about it, but they're being
Yeah,
serious where they're looking forward to it. Also,
yeah,
polygamy never went away, and people don't understand
that's
this.
right. That's right.
Polygamy is still part of the doctrine in Mormonism, and
Hmm.
it works via temple sealings, right? So let's pretend I'm a Mormon, my wife's a Mormon. We are sealed in the temple for all eternity.
Yeah.
My wife dies, whatever.
Hmm. Hmm.
I take another wife and we're sealed in the temple. In the afterlife, I have two wives because the sealing is for all time and eternity,
Yes, it is.
right?
Right.
So what you'll see is even today, where divorce happens, even if like a Mormon man and a Mormon woman get a legal divorce, they're still sealed. You have to go through the first presidency, and it's usually the woman that goes through hell to try and get that undone. But you have to go through the first presidency to get that annulled, right? But there's cases of like Mormons marrying and divorcing, right? Well, that man is still sealed to the women, and the women who divorce their husbands and marry a new more marry another man, they're still sealed to their original husband.
Yeah, we have within the organization of Jehovah's Witnesses, there's something very similar to that, but it's called um, having a scriptural reason for divorce or a scriptural reason to remarry. You can't remarry unless there was a scriptural reason for the divorce. Like you could separate if your wife or your husband is beating the crap out of you and the kids, you can separate. But getting a divorce, you have to have a scriptural reason, which is only
That's the same with
adultery,
the temple sealings, yeah. The
which
the
is only
first
adultery.
presidency will look at it, yep, and they'll say, is there a biblical reason for this?
Yes. Or is there spiritual endangerment? And
Yeah.
those are pretty much it. Is there anything more, Matthew, than that you
I'm
can
going
think
to
of?
say Dave's right. It's all over the place. This is the degree of complexity that is there. Now, is it going to create the fracture? Or is the way that JW deals with it to say, well, we lower the minds, keep you busy, don't think about it, and we hope that you're going to have either people who forget about it, or it's not important, or a generation that comes in that replaces that this just isn't an issue. So they're hoping that it's just going to blow over and that things continue. And let's continue making more buildings and increasing the building portfolio and property story. And yeah, let's carry on as per usual. Now, does that fit in with your opening with the bite model? In it,
Uh,
I hope that it does actually align with what you're talking about, because when we look into this kind of complexity, that's what it does. It creates this mental overload and consumes your bandwidth. And how do you function spiritually? And it puts you into a dependent state where you go, I just don't have the answers. I'm sure the
yes,
leadership does, which is connected to Jesus Christ and God Jehovah, who is seen as this ultimate
yes.
supercomputer of the universe to give us the answer.
And the thing that's very similar with Mormonism and Jehovah's Witnesses is that some people think, why can't these people think for themselves independently of these belief systems or these churches? But the fact is, we were gaslit to believe that the Mormon Church and that the Watchtower is entities that God is using as mediators to speak to his people. So we think we're joining something that God is using. So when we take direction, Mormonism has prophets. We, when we were in the organization, or if you still are, have been taught that the organization is a prophet-like organization, speaks of itself as being the mouthpiece of God. Mouthpiece is a spokesperson, okay? And Jehovah's Witnesses literally means like somebody going to court and being a character witness for someone. And that's what we're taught to be, a character witness for Jehovah, to keep his reputation clean, okay? You might have heard of different people that go to court and they're special advisors because they know a whole lot on a certain subject, things like that. So that's what's behind the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Mormons and even other groups that have so much reverence for the leadership of these groups. They're taught to believe that that's the route to take. And I can remember listening to elders speak. Jehovah's always had an organization. He used Moses. He used, this character from the Bible, that character from the Bible to speak to his people. And that's in line of what God's character is. So we can expect that to be his character today. Since, God's the same yesterday, today, and forever, right?
Until he changes his mind.
Right. So,
until he changes his mind, until new policy comes out, until, it's okay to take blood fractions and get blood transfusions. He's the same.
Yes. So this thing with the LGBT thing with Mormonism, I believe, like they did not allow the children of those part of the LGBTQ community to be baptized or to.
Correct. They would have to be 18, and then they would have to publicly denounce their parents' lifestyle before they could be approved to be baptized.
Right, which is normally done at the age of 8. Okay, so
yeah,
now they've kind of, loosened that up, but they're still going to have to later do the denouncing. Right?
Well, so it's still typically yes, although this policy of denouncing your parents, that's more for converts, because children who are born in and are baptized at 8 typically don't have gay parents.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's more of a policy on how to address, someone who is too, or an openly gay parent that they're close to, that is joining the church, rather than someone who's 8, because they're typically born in TBM families, true believing families.
Yeah, and at the age of 8, they're given what I believe it's called a calling or something to that effect, that words of wisdom are spoken to this 8-year-old child, to where it's like almost a prophecy of what their life is going to be like into their adulthood life. So the prophet or these elders, I don't know what they're called within the wards, could give a saying that the child would take to heart and look forward to these things manifesting in their lives.
It's the same. So males are elders and then females are sister missionaries.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
To answer the question Purple Rhymes had, do they call it Mormon because when each guy could have 4 to 5 wives, the women kept wishing there were more men in church? No. So Mormon, actually, the word Mormon started off as a slur for Joseph. Historically, it started off as a slur that over time, that the church picked up and did the whole I am a Mormon campaign. And then Russell M. Nelson said, no, it's a victory from Satan. We're moving away from that. So,
okay.
I think that's Purple's sense of humor saying more men required.
Oh,
that's so funny. I saw this little joke today on Instagram. I'm taking this off subject for just a minute. And it says, it's something about women should not do the cooking because, and this lady's there using the white chalkboard and writing on it, because it says cook-king. So the men should be cooking. It doesn't say cook queen. It says cook king. So that's why the men should be cooking. I mean, this is just not ridiculous, right? So yeah, little thing I saw. A friend of mine was
I've got that ray of light from heaven that's going, Matt, just
it's so ridiculous. I've never thought about it that way. Look, if you're hungry, hopefully you know how to cook yourself an egg or a hot dog or something.
Yeah, I'm just shaking my head because what people don't know is that there's something called I think the name changed, but it's like EFY or FSY or some acronym. But it's like girls' camp, okay? Girls' camp for Mormon girls. And you can look this up on YouTube. There is a song where young girls will clap and chant and sing the song where they want Mormon more men because they want a husband. It is cringe. It is gross. Just
That's
no.
part of the indoctrination too, that to be used by God within Mormonism, you must be married, right? And that's and
To
you
reach the
know
celestial kingdom, yeah, motherhood is the highest calling.
exactly. So women within Jehovah's Witness organization, we kind of get told it's probably best for you to have children, wait and have children in a new system. But if you have them now, no big deal. They're still a blessing from Jehovah. Um, the highest a woman can get within the organization is to be married to an elder or circuit overseer or maybe even a governing body member. But it's all about
Same
who
with
you're
same with
married to
Mormons in
as a
Utah.
man.
That's why in Utah, like Utah's the number one state for plastic surgeries because even girls who are 18 will get breast augmentation, Botox, and everything. And they'll be hunting boys at BYU whose fathers are stake presidents or, area 70s. They'll be hunting for like the accounting degrees and lawyer degrees because the lawyers typically go and work for Bruce and McConkie, the church's legal firm. And I mean,
Yeah.
from like the Mormon woman perspective, like if you can land a husband and give him children and he's like high in the church, you have it made,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, that's what a lot of women go for, and they'll even talk about it too. And they got to look like pretty, and they try and hang out with the right
Absolutely.
girls and get in with
Hmm.
whatever. I've actually heard of a story where a sister missionary had an affair on her mission with a stake president who was like divorcing his wife, and they got together, and like the social status that like came with that. Nobody talked about the adultery thing or that it was on the mission. It was just she's a stake president's wife.
Hmm. And this is
So
pretty
it
common
happens.
when that kind of stuff happens. It's usually directed more at the woman, not so much the man. The man can get on stage and apologize. I've sinned, and we should all God forgives, so we should all forgive the man. It's much harder for the woman. The
Yeah, and I mean,
greatness. Yeah.
in some ways it's the same. In Mormonism, it's a little bit different. People tend to blow it over.
Okay.
Uh,
Good.
they tend to like kind of overlook that, which I don't know can be a good thing, but it's also like a negative thing because at the end of the day, 18-year-old missionary marries like a 56-year-old stake president. She's basically a trophy wife. So I don't see a good ending to that necessarily. But I mean, I don't know. She's marrying for his money. I guess financially, that's a good call.
And she's
Like
able to have children. She's at a
yeah,
ripe
she's
age
able
for
she's
children,
able
right?
to have children, and I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of women in Mormonism they want the social status and they want the money. So it's like if you can marry a guy who either has that potential or is already there, they'll put up with a lot.
Hmm. And this is very different, like what you're talking about, than Jehovah's Witnesses, because Jehovah's Witnesses were taught to not go to university. Mormonism has Brigham Young University. Okay, they had a university. They're very big on university and higher education, and there are many very successful, prominent Mormons within society at large. And I
Yeah.
used to go to a dentist who was a Mormon. Excellent, excellent man. He was just excellent. I absolutely love that man. So
Yeah. Jay
there's
Mars has a question. Are Mormons who go on missions are in pre-selected marriages? Like pre-arranged? No. So what it used to be, so the mission age for women got lowered a lot over the course of time, but it used to be 21. And typically what would happen is women who went on missions, um, they were considered like old maids, right? So if you couldn't find a husband at BYU or if you couldn't
oh,
find one in the YSA ward, then you would go on a mission if you're a woman.
I
Men,
see.
like men would go on missions, be a return missionary, and that's when they would hunt out a wife.
Yes.
That's why Mutual is a thing. It's Mormon Tinder. Mutual is hilarious. But no, they're not in pre-selected marriages. And what the dynamic has kind of shifted to now is that since women can go on missions at 18. Now it's kind of, okay, as a man, you go and do your mission and then you find a wife. And then for women, it's hurry up and do your mission so you can start, being a wife and mother.
Yeah. Jehovah's Witnesses have what is called a commission to go door to door, the preaching work for the whole time that they're Jehovah's Witness. And what you're talking about is like a matter of 2 years in their early adulthood life, where they could maybe be assigned locally to go to, or maybe a foreign land to share the gospel, the Mormon gospel. Mm-hmm. So back to the thing about Mormonism and Jehovah's Witnesses is the same techniques and tactics that are used to get the followers to believe what they believe. We might have different belief systems, but it's the same techniques and tactics that are used on us. So that's what makes us so much alike. And we were talking about different things that was going on in the history of Jehovah's Witnesses, where there was a time that Operation Warp Speed was suggested, and it was not okay with some people's conscience. Okay, they did not feel okay about it, and some people did feel okay about it, and they had no problem with it. But what they did was they made this announcement that Matthew was talking about is one of those things that the organization does on a regular basis. They don't necessarily tell you straight up, this is what you should do. No, this is what they do. They give an example. They read mm-hmm. the thoughts of some other upstanding Jehovah's Witness and what they thought and how they have behaved. They do that as a good example, and it makes you think to yourself, that's what I should do.
Same thing.
Exactly. So when Matthew was talking about 98% of a certain group, this was Bethel. So it's our higher up, the highest you can go, where people volunteer to go. And in that realm, 98% chose to take advantage of Operation Time Warp. So that was one of those, it's a good example, and you should all do it too. Then there was limitations. If you don't do it, you won't be able to go to the hall once the Kingdom Hall opens up for us to gather again. So
that's actually very different than Mormonism. So what happened with Operation Warp Speed is the prophet came out at the time, Russell M. Nelson, and he said, talk with your doctor and prayerfully consider engaging in this specific practice. That split the church in half, straight down the middle, because some people were like, we should follow the prophet. He knows the way. He was a medical surgeon. And then the conservatives were like, no, fuck you. This is just government propaganda. This is, and like, boom. I moved to Utah when it happened, and I saw this shit explode on Facebook. Right? And like, and that just made me realize, even when I got there, like Mormonism, like if you look at it like on the surface, right? You look at Mormons and you watch the influencers, you go to a Mormon church, everyone seems united. Yeah. Until that specific medical practice came out, and then holy shit, that thing split straight down the middle. People moved wards because of, people of the opposite perspective. They're like, oh, my bishop's a liberal. Fuck this guy. And then, they would go to like a more conservative ward, even though it's outside of their home radius. And then the liberals, like, oh, this guy's a conservative douchebag, and then they would go to a more progressive area, and
is this
so
what
that's it's a little bit different. It wasn't the 98% who went with it. Was literally just boom. But that
did happen within the culture of Jehovah's Witnesses and the culture of previous Jehovah's Witnesses. So, Mike, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but might that be what you're talking about, Matthew, when you say fracture? There's a fracture that has happened. That what Diamond Dave has talked about. They had different views within the Mormon Church, and
that's why we got a leak before there was the governing body update on the blood. So that's why that happened. So when that hit Reddit, for instance, and it hit the communication network and the social media ahead of time, and Gerrit Loesch's outline was leaked publicly, where it shows that, isn't this what he said word for word? Oh, Herod has got no mind. He's just an automaton robot in the governing body. All of that was exposed. The other thing that was exposed was, you had Flegel and Winder who were getting up, and they said, there's no need for us to apologize because we're just doing our best. If we slightly get things wrong, this is how they were talking. Well, what did they get wrong? They got wrong this 98% story, which now, if you go back into the biblical principle, you see that the enemy makes a plan to say, oh, Jehovah is too strong in protecting his people. What shall we do? The only way that we can defeat Israel is by getting Israel to break a law that God, Jehovah, YHVH, will never accept. And therefore his spirit is withdrawn, and then we attack the people and we decimate Israel. This has been the spiritual
God's people or God.
So what I'm hearing from this break, to put it in Mormon terms, because there's a fracture and there's a leak coming down from Bethel about Matthew said like someone getting it wrong in Bethel. As a Mormon, we would say, and I quote, it is wrong to criticize the leaders even if the criticism is justified. That is an actual quote from an apostle in a general conference talk.
Okay, so Dave, this is what happened in JW, is now the leadership were put on the record. So instead of criticism, they were asked a question on the record. Now that there is a double bind catch-22 situation, what should we do? But what happened was you had not just top leadership governing body putting in writing, which they would normally avoid, but you had their families commenting, and they put it on the record what should be done. Yes. so they okay.
Hot mic scenario. Whoopsie daisies. I gotta go. Thanks for having me on, but great way to end it.
So much
awkward hot mics. You guys. Thank you for having me on. I will catch you guys in the Discord.
Dave, you're a hell of a lot of good fun, though.
Right on.
He's had to disappear, but yeah, he's a lot of fun. Really enjoyed Dave.
So I think what I'm going to be using is the term warp speed in the future, and see how that works with the, censoring and stuff. And hopefully people will understand that that is referring to something that actually back in the day Rutherford taught against as well. Matter of fact, he said, "Don't do this. You might as well just, drink like." He was very, very against preventative medication from that time, and I even found myself at a time when I was lacking a certain thing during a pregnancy of mine, and it was very, I had to make sure I didn't get around certain people. Well, 30-something years ago or whatever, there was no outbreak of it. But today, there is. So if the people listening know that there's been a recent outbreak in, that'll kind of tell you what I was not up to date on. It's so weird to talk in code, but I know you guys know what I'm talking about. Now, let me, I looked into the cell, what is that, cell track or something to that effect. So that is a portion of the recipe, maybe we can call it the recipe. There's other things that are, that there is more of within that recipe. And it's from so many things removed that cell is talked about. So many, it's not a recent situation that cell stuff is from. It's from back in the 70s, actually, of them using some of that, what you were speaking of, and it being involved in warp speed. I hope I'm making sense. That has also been compared to, well, There have been things that have been built by slaves, okay? And if somebody lives in it today, does that mean that they're saying that that time of life was okay? You know, if and then I'm talking about the United States. Does that mean they were in agreement with the belief of having slaves as being this wonderful thing? Or I know of other people who will, like, sometimes there's places in the South that are set up to be wonderful places where people can get married. So when they do get married, the location has all the everything they need to get married, and they have people that will officiate weddings, right? Some people that officiate weddings will, it's against their conscience to do it in a home that was built in that manner. So there's a difference here. Some people it doesn't bother their conscience, some people it does, you know. It's been compared to that. Maybe even the road that we drive on might it have been laid by those that were in prison, you know, and that kind of labor was done in that manner using prisoners. You know, that might be something somebody will avoid that road, and others will know about it, and it won't affect their conscience to drive on that road. So I'm speaking of it in that manner, or that's how I'm somewhat viewing it.
Linda James, I'm amazed how you navigated what Dave is going. This thing is all over the place. I mean, I'm sitting there and I'm going, he summed it up so well, you know, because even for an insider, this kind of information is hectic. I'm amazed that France processed it like they did, and personally, my reaction was encouraged because, in fact, I did connect with them about this. I said, you know, the way that you guys tackled it, I tackled it slightly differently here. Because in my mind, I was going, well, it was a disassociation action. It wasn't necessarily disfellowshipping,
Sure.
or which is now called removal. It was actually a disassociation thing. If you're talking from a spiritual perspective and not from a technical perspective, because the fact is that ahead of time they were given warning. Now, the French brethren were taking the tactic of, well, look at the results of what's happened. It's put persons into physical jeopardy, which is a guilty thing. I took it from this perspective that, well, no, hang on a second. Before this thing came up, you were given warnings well before 2019, but you shut it down, which is negligent. It is from JW, let's say somebody who's taking it seriously, who's taking all the rules seriously, and hasn't become apostate, has become genuine in keeping to the rules, goes, well, if we're holding to these things, you've actually disassociated yourself through negligence because you didn't allow for the correct kind of communication to come up from those who are genuinely sincere, who are saying, before we take an action, we're not showing some kind of dissent or rebellion. We're coming to you like we're supposed to be, in a dependency fashion, to say, well, we have a mission critical thing that's time sensitive. What's the information, so that we can actually use our consciences the way that you're saying.
If the governing body are the ones that interpret scripture, and we have what is called a Bible conscience, a Bible trained conscience, we have to refer to those that interpret the scripture, right?
Yeah. And so then why would Jehovah delay on such an important life or death matter if in the past he's always spoken to his prophets and said, yes, well, you've come to me, which is the original sin. Adam never came to consult with me about what his wife, excuse me for putting it this way, but this is the JW thing.
It is, yeah.
because they say, well, if only Adam had consulted with Jehovah first of all, it would have shown the right kind of attitude, that he had been dependent upon the greatest mind in the universe, the creator mind, to solve this complex problem. And it might have saved his wife and himself because she was not deceived, or she was deceived, whereas the man was not deceived. They go, the woman was deceived.
Why was he not deceived, though? Why did he not fall for it?
They said she was deceived, but the man was not deceived.
And I'm wondering why. Do you know why?
Yeah, I can look it up.
Because
Adam,
when I listen to people talk about the Adam and Eve story and the fruit, some people speak of it as if it was simply Eve there with the talking snake, and Adam was off someplace else.
Yeah, but so I can give you a quotation.
There are scriptures that also says that Adam was right there with her. So there's that. Yes, please.
So Linda James, to look it up, because I can't do this off the top of my head, I just know that I have to go for a reference, because this is, we're talking, and again, trigger warning to anybody, because we're going into JW doctrine here.
Sure.
But according to the recent Watchtower, what is this thing? This thing is W20 June, let your name be sanctified. It says the following. It says, at that point, Eve still saw Jehovah as her ruler. She answered Satan by reciting God's clear direction. She added that they should not even touch the tree. She knew of God's warning that disobedience would lead to death. But Satan replied, you certainly will not die. Satan was no longer subtle. He was now slandering directly God's name, in effect telling Eve that Jehovah is a liar. So Satan thus became a devil or slanderer, and Eve was thoroughly deceived. She believed Satan. She put more trust in him than Jehovah. So that made it easier for Eve to make the worst possible decision. She decided to disobey Jehovah. She began eating the fruit that Jehovah had forbidden her to eat, and afterward she gave some to Adam. So that's the implication, that now, well, how does Jehovah communicate? He walks about in this garden during the breezy part of the day to Adam. So now there's the snake, it's this irregularity, it's this anomaly, and this is the basis for Eve being deceived, because she's going, oh, well, this is new. Is this equal to God now? This is a new thing. I'm deceived by this. So that's the implication. But remember, Linda James, here's Matt Gray explaining what's in print. So are we rationalizing it?
What is the name of the article that this is in? Because I think I've opened up to it.
Okay, so I'm going to, may I put it into the comments just to make it easier?
Sure.
So I'm going to right click it with the caption, and I'm just going to post it into the comments, and that should make it a bit easier. So it's W20 June, page 4, paragraph 10.
I opened up January anyways, so I can go to the.
Yeah.
Thank you for putting it in there.
Now, Linda James, Diamond Dave was quite right in that it's easy to get all over the place, and I thought that was a great statement, because it just shows the kind of complexity that burns people's brains. And I mean, I come out of this and I say to you, geez, this is a long road of recovery.
Yeah.
Where your cognition has been so pressed for such a long time that you can wonder, has this altered my brain chemistry? Has this actually created some kind of physical brain damage even? And I've even asked my own practicing doctor, I said, tell me, do you reckon there's brain damage? He goes, nah, it's on a microcellular level. In other words, she's comforting me, but the answer is actually yes.
Yes.
Yes. We just don't have the scanning equipment to check it.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you're used to a certain routine, you know, there's certain trails kind of here in your brain. So changing your routine would make kind of different trails, if that makes sense. Um, but also the influence that had us to take the certain trails we did. Yeah, I think I'm losing it, and I think I'm losing um, concentration and everything else.
Linda James, I want to say this. My motive, as always, was to support you, and I actually know that the things that are brought up were of a very complex nature. I know that.
Yeah.
So, if I may, you started off with the bike model. That was your intention,
Yeah.
and you were in a good direction, and you were in a good role there. So maybe we should. Yeah, there we go. So I tell you what, why don't we tag team this thing, if I may, or I offer my services here, and encourage you. Please, Linda James, I was enjoying where you were coming from with this, and I got completely engaged. But why don't we tackle this piece by piece and see if we can get right back on track with your original intention here? Does that sound good?
I do like that. Yes.
Okay.
So where I'm at here is I downloaded a PDF from Stephen Hassan's website, which is called Freedom of Mind. Here it is, Freedom of Mind Resource Center. And when you open it up, it'll say like education and this, that, and the other, all these things you can look under. I specifically looked for bite model and the continuum, which is what was showing on here, which is to be used with the bite model, is this continuum. It's called influence continuum. I always forget that, influence continuum. I don't know.
So, Linda James, how do we find this on the Freedom of Mind website again? Do we go to resources?
Let's see here. I started off in one of these things. Okay, so I just put under learn it. I could find the bite model and
okay, got it.
In continuum.
So influence continuum.
You'll have a chance to download that. It's a PDF. So right now we're looking at a PDF that's in my computer.
Okay.
And I don't know how to make it like full frame, but maybe someday I'll learn.
I actually can read it off the screen, Linda James. It's looking good.
Okay, good. So where I would like to take it is down to the bite model. And I know this can be kind of like boring, but I really want to get into it on a regular basis to where we know it like the back of our hand. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what we have here is the reasons that we have BITE, B-I-T-E. So we have behavior control, that's for the B. We have information control, that's for the I. And then we have thought control, which is the T, and emotional control, which is the E. So BITE model. And under these are different examples of what would fall under thought control, or what would fall under emotional control, or thought control, these different things. So I encourage you guys to go to that website, Freedom of Mind, and be able to download this into your device, into your computer, whatever you have, to be able to refer to this on a regular basis. This was actually based off of Robert J. Lifton, 8 criteria to totalism. Okay, so he made that from that. He actually got to meet Robert J. Lifton, who recently died like last year at the age of 99. So He did get to meet him like almost 50 years ago, because part of him being part of the Moonies, his father begged him to please listen to these previous Moonies and see what they have to say. And that was very tough for him because by this time he was a very, very devout Moonie. And his father literally cried and said, "What would you do if this was your son?" And they, dropped out of college and gave their whole savings account to this group of people. If I, me and your mother just need to know that we've done all that we can for you to know certain, for you to fully check it out. And his mindset was he was happy to do it because he was going to confirm that this is good stuff. This is truly true, So it was a matter of about 5 days with these previous Mormons. And one of the things that woke him up, Stephen Hassan, is that he was given something to read that went totally against what Moon had been teaching. Moon had been teaching that Koreans were the superior race. And what he read was something that Moon had said to Americans that talked about himself in a very modest way and raising up Americans as if they were the superior race, okay? And Stephen Hassan looked at that and knew that Moon was lying, okay? And that just put a crack in his belief system. And he thought to himself, what a liar, It was like for us, when we were watching the Australian Royal Commission and we listened to Angus Stewart ask Jeffrey Jackson if the governing body considered themselves as Jehovah's spokesmen. And Jeffrey Jackson paused and said, that would be presumptuous of us. He continued to make it all work together. But right there, when he said that would be presumptuous of us, we all lost our shit, okay? We just went, what? What? Because that's rule one. That's exactly who we are as Jehovah's Witnesses. We are God's spokesmanship. Everything we do and say has to be monitored because we represent Jehovah, okay? And we listen to a governing body who is being used by Jehovah. They are definitely Jehovah's representation when we look at the governing body as Jehovah's Witnesses and receive the spiritual food at the proper time. Code language, yes, loaded language. So there is that. So he came up with this fight model. So I don't know if it's showing the whole fight model thing.
Yeah, Linda James, I managed to trace it. You made that very easy to find. But okay. I wanted to just say something, if I may, about timeouts. Can I do that? Because you've always given me that freedom.
Yeah.
And I wanted to just say something about that because we're touching on material, even if in our cognition we're very familiar with these topics. We're actually touching on material that can land very differently for each person. So when you say to me, Matt, you can take space here and you don't have to apologize about it or get awkward or anything like that. You create a space that's part of a healthy environment, and that's what you've always done, which is brilliant. I appreciate it. So if anybody that comes into this space feels like they need a time out to go, geez, this is hectic thing to get into. I wanted to say, Linda James, how does it sound if we say something like, there's no pressure for anyone to engage beyond what they feel comfortable. It's about safety as much as insight. And genuinely, when we say we enjoy people's company here, that's a truth. I feel that. I go, geez, even if it is tricky, or even if you come in and disagree, there is a good vibe that's there. But then there's also a vibe that says, geez, maybe there's a mental overload, and I've got to go and just lie down or change the channel, you know.
And I will never be offended if you have to exit stage left, any of you, okay? Any of you. You can tell yourself, I'll listen to it later, or I just got to skip this one. I know
Yeah.
I'm not up to hearing this subject.
No, well, thanks for that, Linda James. So we're on this bike model, behavioral information control. This is the PDF that can be downloaded, right?
Yes.
And your intention is we become very familiar with it. Why? Because it helps us for not just high control religions that can become abusive, but all kinds of systems, even governmental and institutional, where these things come, or even in a family, even a family where you're going, these are people I love or I care about. This thing can occur, right?
Absolutely. And when you're within it, for some reason you don't know it's abusive. So if you grew up in a family, and you're going on along in life and you find out some things and you go, oh, that happened to me and I just thought that was normal. You've come to find that those were actually abusive characteristics.
Yeah.
You might be able to look back and go, oh, okay, and I've done this and have come to realize not only was the organization that I was raised in very abusive, but also my childhood. Like I can remember my mom going off beating on my dad, okay? My mother beating on my father, and I never ever saw my father hit her back, okay? He would always do this with blocking her as she went to, punch him and stuff. And she would tell me that he always wanted to. And I was supposed to believe that over what I saw. It was like what it was like being in the org too, And then I hear this lately in politics. Don't believe what you see or hear. Just believe what we're telling you, right? That sounds oddly familiar, So the reason I'm wanting you to learn these things is because so that you can recognize them in things that are coming up. Yes, we didn't know to recognize them before, and we can reflect from what we've been involved in before and go, oh, okay, if you decide that rings true to you. But it helps us to make less damaging choices in our future that end up doing for others. It ends up being behavior that benefits others more so than ourselves. Okay? That's what I'm hoping, that in the future, our behavior can be based more in what benefits ourselves, because we were taught to be very sacrificial. Just, give until all depleted. So there's that. Yeah. And I appreciate you bringing that up, Matthew.
Well, I appreciate you creating the opportunity to be able to talk about that. I want to ask, if I'm not putting you on the spot, how are you feeling? Are you feeling we're getting back on track here?
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Cool.
And
okay.
I'm like super proud of myself. I learned how to do this. Put this thing on the screen. Okay. I've been dealing with StreamYard for years. Okay. And could not figure out how to do this. And like last week I did it for the first time. So I'm like, this is one of my big successes.
Well, this is really cool to be able to get on some mastery of the technical side of these things.
I'm just Ms. iTech, I'm Ms. IT because I can do this.
It's a great feeling. It is a good feeling. Yeah.
But you know what? I'm in this generation of like, my kids kind of had access to computers and stuff, but my grandkids have grown up with a mouse in their hands. They, learning in school and everything. So there's this kind of missed generation that I happen to be in.
Yeah.
I wasn't taught this, and my grandkids know more than I do in this area. So I do a lot of just learning on my own, and that's okay because I learn at my own space anyway. And another thing is, I think Trump truly has some learning disabilities like myself, and I think that he probably hasn't had the education to use a computer, because you'll never see a laptop in front of him. He doesn't use computers. And I think that if somebody tried to train him, he might have just got too impatient, which
Right.
I would have been as well. But I learned it on my own timing. I don't think he had enough time that I have had to sit here and make all the mistakes I've made, and then made all the right. He's just going, right? So I don't think he's had the chance to learn how to do it, or taken the time to learn how to use a computer. But yeah, and that's not a put down. It means I recognize that in him. Yeah. So again, I'm hoping that we can learn these things: behavior, information, thought control, and emotional control, so that we will recognize it maybe in a future partner. Maybe
Yeah.
at a maybe we want to get involved in volunteering at a soup kitchen, and the person who's the leadership is using some of these techniques and tactics at a local church soup kitchen. Okay? Yes, it could be the desire of your heart to be at a soup kitchen, but if we have an authoritative big boss there that's using some of these techniques and tactics on us, do we really want to stay there? And if we are okay, then we're okay. But we can always serve soup someplace else, with somebody who's in charge that's not using these manipulative techniques on us. So that's the fact is we will fall for this stuff over and over and over again. That's why that term cult hopping exists. We are prone to fall into these things because we've been groomed to be in these things. So that's what feels like home for us. Okay. So the more we keep learning it, keep reminding ourselves. But what is good is when we do find ourselves in them, we get out sooner than last time. That's the good thing. So back to, we can retrieve them quicker when we see it, the behavior in someone. Be like, oh, okay, I know what that is, and you can label it in your head. That's gaslighting. That's blame shifting. That's this or that's that. So it can be helpful for you that way. The top one under behavior control. And what do you think, Matthew? Are you up to maybe giving examples or talking about each one, and either just reading it out loud or giving an example? Or do you feel up to doing this with me? Or
Yeah, I'm fresh mentally. Thanks for asking, Linda James, because sometimes I'm kind of out of it, but I'm pretty. I feel fresh mentally. I feel like actually okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So behavior control. Do you want me to start there, or information control?
Yes, please, on behavior control.
Okay, so it says regulate individuals' physical reality. Geez, just to even think about this, eh? Then it says dictate where, how, and with whom the member lives. Holy cow. I mean, we're only on the second one here. And then it says, and associates or isolates. So, yeah, okay. I'm just going to read them off, because as I'm reading them off, it triggers all kinds of things. Go, yup.
Mm-hmm.
Then it says 3, when, how, and with whom the member has sex. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
4, control types of clothing and hairstyles. 5, regulate diet, food, and drink, hunger or fasting. 6, manipulation and deprivation of sleep. Yep. 7, financial exploitation, manipulation, or dependence. Yeah. 8, restrict leisure, entertainment, vacation time. 9, major time spent with group indoctrination and rituals and or self-indoctrination, including the internet. 10, permission required for major decisions. 11, rewards and punishments used to modify behaviors, both positive and negative. And now I've got to just catch up with where we are. And then it says 12, discourage individualism, encourage groupthink. 13, impose rigid rules and regulations. 14, punish disobedience by beating, torture, burning, cutting, grape, or what's it? Tattooing, branding. Yeah. 15, threaten harm to family and friends. 16, force individual to grapes and bananas, or tattooing, branding. Then it says, and the reason for using these words is because of the algorithm, folks. So it's not trying to be funny or something. It's just trying to make the broadcast, Linda James broadcast, safe for YouTube. And then it says 17, force. Then it says 17, encourage and engage in corporal punishment. Oh, my word.
Right? Number 17.
17, Matt, this is where you went wrong, buddy.
That's your number.
18,
right?
instill dependency and obedience. 19, kidnapping. 20, beating. Hello, we're back there again.
I'm bringing
21, torture. 22, we're back to grapes and bananas. 23, separation of families. 24, imprisonment, and 25, murder. Oof, we were talking about this, weren't we? Linda James, I've read it. I did it.
Thank you. So from this
Thank
list,
you.
the different groups will have a good amount of these in it. So if you hear something that doesn't apply to, let's say, the culture of Jehovah's Witnesses, one of these things might apply in a different culture. Okay. So,
Linda James, why is it difficult to read these things? Because it triggers the tick. It's like what Purple says, right? It goes, this ticks these boxes, doink, 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 and then just to go through it, wow.
Right.
Sorry, I'm having a profound moment at just reading this.
It hits us, and we're looking at it going, oh my, holy shit, okay. Another one. And another one, and it's ringing true to us. We can picture each different thing: beatings, okay, kidnapping, instill dependency and obedience. That is very much part of the org. And I also see it within this administration of the United States, that there's the dependency and obedience. So people are chosen because of their loyalty, not so much about their qualifications. I also see that happening within the organization of Jehovah's Witnesses. So you'll be able to read this over and see it not only in the culture of Jehovah's Witnesses, but any other area that you may have been involved in your past, or are involved in now, or what you might see in the future. These are things that fall under the category of behavior control.
May I ask a question, Linda James, just take a pause? Can I do that?
Yeah, sure.
Linda James, I see in the comments here, and I'm relating to it, that Purple's coming up with, just candidness, which is what I really appreciate.
Really,
so Purple,
yeah, that about
Purple says, yes, listening you read this made me twitchy. But I'll tell you what I could feel, Linda James. I could feel not a very bad headache, but I could feel a slight headache as I read that. And I'm going, but we know this information. I know this information. Why is this happening? I think not so long ago, it would have given me a migraine. Now it's giving me a slight headache, but I'm not totally out of it. I want to ask, Linda James, since you've been doing this longer, do you relate to what I'm talking about? That's the first one. And the second one is, how long did it take for you to be cured? Or if you're not cured, how long did it take for you to manage it?
So the longer I've been out, the easier it's become each time I choose to spend time in things that I find triggering. I don't always joyfully jump in and want to do that. But it helps us desensitize ourselves.
So I think what we're doing is love. That's what it is, Linda James. I think that's why. Yeah, I don't know what to say. I'm kind of losing words, but I think it's love. I think for us getting together like this it's love.
And again, if somebody's feeling like, this is just too much, I don't mind if you have to take a break, go watch some kitty cats on YouTube for a while, do some cute tricks. I'm all good with that. But I also think the education of the bite control can be extremely, extremely helpful.
Oh, absolutely. I see the benefit, but I'm just interested in, because they go get in touch with your body signaling.
Yes.
What do you feel? Do you feel that there is something going on here? Is there a tension? There's knots here. I've got knots.
And see, I'm so familiar with this. I'm not experiencing it like I used to. But hearing what you're saying, for instance, you're saying if I would have read this before, I know I would have had a worse headache. Yet you're feeling a bit of tugness to your head. You're feeling the symptoms of, I think it might be triggering. I think these are symptoms of triggering. And so, but it sounds like it's less than what it would have been before, and you recognize that.
Yeah.
And this could be a time of, I can hang. You might ask yourself, can I hang a little bit more, or should I exit? And either way is fine with me. Always take care of your psyche, your mental state of mind, because if we're going to be mentally diseased, we need to look good, okay? When we're freaking the fuck out, we are not looking good.
Yeah.
So take your breaks. Yeah. And I'm talking.
Well, Linda James, thanks for involving me there, and also just having a time out, because I asked you something personal. But the reason why I'm doing that is I'm going, well, you've been doing this for some time. And I go, the only way that you can be doing this is by going, I want to help people.
I do, yeah.
And you've gained, although it's always a work in progress, you've gained some mastery over this. And I'm kind of going, geez, Linda James, how long? It would be nice to know, how long does this take, so that, if I'm out in public and socializing, I'm not going to have to just, have a meltdown or something, or have some strange reaction going on because there's this tension. I think what I would do is I would probably put a boundary if I knew that somebody was talking about this and was gaslighting me or putting me into a situation where it was escalating. I would probably try and leave the room.
Absolutely. And that's something we can rehearse and come up with certain statements that will end a conversation, that will excuse you from a room, because we've been trained to feel obligated to stand there and listen to whoever is talking to us, because we've taught to treat others better than ourselves. So there takes a shift of mind to say, okay, I'm feeling these experiences, this is getting uncomfortable, I can hang. And all of a sudden you are really feeling disassociated, and oh my God, my heart's beating a bit louder and faster than usual, and you're feeling the onset of a panic attack. But you still have this sense of obligation that you can't walk away from this person who's talking to you. So it's really helpful to have a few tools in your pocket. I got to go to the restroom. I'll talk to you in a few minutes. I'll be right back. Anything. And to come to conversations and have outs for situations like this is super helpful. Super helpful. Even the terminology of when somebody's bringing something up to you and they're trying to coerce you into doing something, have a few statements for that. That's not going to work for me. You might want to do that, but that's not going to work for me. Well, that's going to displease Jehovah. Evidently, he's going to have to be displeased for a while, because I'm not able to do that. And I think me and him have a relationship going on, and we'll be fine with that. Just things to come up with to where you're speaking to them in a way of taking care of yourself, rather than
Yeah.
you're listening to them with a sense of obligation of having to stand here and
Yeah.
experience the things that are being thrown at us. You're too prideful. That might be true.
Well,
You know?
Linda James, again, we're getting these great comments coming in. Purple's really ahead here. Can I read some of these comments, Linda James? Can I go ahead?
Yes, please.
Purple rhymes with orange says exposure can help as long as you know you're in a safe setting.
Yes.
I feel in a safe setting here. I do.
Good. I'm really glad.
Here's some more. Purple says it made me check that my door is locked and the windows are latched. Yeah, why not? Yeah. Born says I was all settled in with pizza in the oven and some beer, getting ready to enjoy the show, and the power went out due to wildfire in the area. Power's back, and I think I missed something. Then Sheila says this.
I'm sorry, I was just kind of reacting to that. Go ahead.
Okay, well, let me pause. What was your reaction, Linda James?
I was bummed that he had his beer and pizza and that the electricity went out. So it took me a minute.
I wanted beer and pizza too.
Even though I don't drink beer, and I don't drink beer, okay?
I don't drink beer either.
It just sounds so cool. It just sounds like the thing to be doing tonight, right? Having beer and pizza.
It sounded very cozy.
It
Sheila
does.
reacted, says discussing this together is group therapy and can help with disengaging from harmful feelings and promote positive healing as one is trying to come to terms with the negativity we may be experiencing.
Yes. The thing about being involved in these groups that are high control, high demand, destructive groups is we have very little options that we're functioning in. And my hope is that we have some extended options beyond the limited ones. Okay? If you still have the belief system of the organization, you still have that belief system. But I want to encourage you to have more options or choices that you can make that you didn't even know existed. Like, for instance, I had no idea what a boundary was until I was at least 30. Okay? I listened to these two gals from a show called I've Had It. Okay?
Okay.
Jennifer and Pump. Jennifer was raised by atheists and never had a spiritual experience or was never a Christian. Pump, she was raised a Christian in mainstream Christianity, and her mother is incredibly controlling. So they've been friends for, 30 years. They've known each other since their kids were little, and they've grown up together. They're now out in college, right? And they do this cool little podcast, all right? And they're left-leaning, and they do their opinions on the government and different people within government. Jennifer was talking, Pumps is Angela, about her mother, Angela's mother, and was talking to the audience and said, I don't think anybody could understand what Angela's mother used to do. She would walk in the house, not knock, unannounced, not invited, walk in there and inform Angela, how things should go, open her mail. I'm like, this was me. This is exactly what I'm used to. This is exactly how my mother used to treat me. Reprimand me in front of God and everybody, right? This was my normal. So, of course, I made a comment. Jennifer literally thought nobody that's listening to them have ever experienced what this one went through. I have. That was my normal. We were groomed to be abused. And that's what she was talking about regarding Angela Pump. So somebody who's never had a religious background just can't even identify with, why does your mother get to walk in here and have the justification of God to treat you like shit? What? I would tell my dad to get the hell out of here. And she would feel like she could, okay? But her dad would never walk into her life, or her mother would never walk into her life and do these things. Like, I have no business walking into any of my grown children's lives and doing any of that. That is not my business. And when I do pull rank, it's because of a big thing. Or maybe one of my kids are just really speaking disrespectful to me, and it's been quite a while. I'll give them I'm your mother. do not speak to me that way. And they'll go, oh my God, I'm sorry, Mom. But it takes something like that. And it's very, very, very rare. I have to respect them as adults now.
Yeah.
Within high control groups, keeping people in an infantile position helps them remain dependent on their parents or the group or the leadership, things like that.
Yes, indeed. So how are we doing, Linda James? Are we covering this thing well? Do you think we've done this behavior control section enough here? What's your sense?
I do think that.
Okay. Okie dokie.
So I'm going to do information control. And it says, description, deliberately withhold information, distort information to make it more acceptable, systematically lie to the cult member. I'll tell you what this looks like to me. When somebody goes to an elder, have you taken care? What happened to what I reported to you? It's taken care of. We have it under control. That's a great example of systematically lie to the cult member, and by way of omission, meaning this person came and asked an elder to answer to them, and the elder purposely did not answer to them. They're deciding to say, we've got it handled. Like, don't worry, your pretty little head, you can move along.
To me, that's a lie.
Yeah.
To me, that's a lie. I know that you can get someone like what happened in Norway. I realize that you can argue it and say, no, that's not a lie. But then the people who are controlling this narrative, those are the ones I feel, in my opinion, are the abusers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why this work that what Stephen Hassan's done has been able to expose this whole problem in our society. This is a problem. This is why we're in crisis. This is why the rainforests are being cut down and not being regrown. This is why this happens.
How does the rainforest have anything to do with this, Matthew?
Because I look at that as a flag. I look at something like the coral reef as a flag. I look at the rainforest as something as a flag. I mean, for how many years did we know that this is the lungs of the planet? Yeah. So every time we go, okay, well, we're sharing oxygen that others were breathing in, animals were breathing in, the trees have breathed and cleaned and replenished. But, we've got this problem of a scarcity that's happened. And until such a time as you actually get, instead of negative statistic or a shrinkage that's going on with this rainforest, we are yet to see it actually expanding. But we see something like population growth expanding, and we're going, well, hang on a second, we didn't get things in order with that. It's an indicator that there's something wrong. And if now those persons that are in power, that are controlling things for an economy based on scarcity, which is a deliberate thing, it's showing that we as a collective community, because we all share the same resources, or we all share the planet together, but there's uneven distribution and uneven power structures in controlling this thing. We are in a crisis as humans, and we are in a crisis on a planetary scale. So that's why I use something like, the rainforest to say, until such time as we actually see positive growth, eventually it's going to get to such a stage that you get that knock-on effect where you actually can't repair it.
Yeah.
But anyway, I use it as a litmus paper test. I use it as a test to go, look, are we healthy? No, we're not.
Yeah, I can remember when I was doing some research within the United Nations regarding Jehovah's Witnesses, because I wanted to know if they were involved in it. which in that organization is a big frickin' deal because the United Nations is the wild beast of Revelation, and it's always been presented to us as this scary thing. So we wouldn't show up there, okay? So, anyways, in my research after I'd left the org, I remember finding that the Watchtower had attended a climate change seminary or something to that effect. I'm just thinking to myself, wow, you know, they were being educated on climate change. And today, here in the U.S., our president has said, "Yep, that's a hoax." You know, so once the president has declared that's a hoax, then things that have been in place to make it to where things like the rainforest, won't be just collapse and become bare, um, desert and stuff. We've actually done some things to help counteract these assured possibilities if you do believe in climate change. And then so came along and went, yeah, none of that counts. None of it counts, So there's that. So systematically lie to the cult members, which today I find it incredibly obvious that is what the president here in this administration is doing to us on a regular basis. And plus, his father died of Alzheimer's or dementia, and it took his father about 10 years. And unfortunately, and I'm not happy about this, many people, including myself, are seeing these, seeing what we believe is the case for him, that he probably has dementia, probably has Alzheimer's or whatever, and we're seeing it affecting him over the years. We're watching him get worse and worse. So that combined with the mindset of Trump has been a dangerous combination, especially since he decided to start a war with Iran, and what has turned into today is going to affect the whole world. Okay, I don't know. I don't know if anybody in other countries are ever going to forgive us because of the behavior of our president, but he's unstoppable, and I believe they're dangerous. But part of the way he does things is doesn't tell us the whole truth, and he doesn't follow procedures because he's above the law. He's above procedures. The only thing he goes by is, and he has spoken this out loud, whatever he sees and believes is correct. He was advised before he went to bomb Iran to not do this, and strongly not do this, because all these things are going to happen. He did it anyways, and now all these things are happening. And I think he had a moment of holy shit, because he's seeing the consequences and how it's going to affect everybody on this earth. And so just, hang on, people. And
yeah, I mean, I remember those words in Zimbabwe with Robert Mugabe. By the way, a brilliant, educated politician. I mean, yeah. So people say what they like about him, but that person had brilliance. And you're talking about Trump. I remember Robert Mugabe going, well, you can't come to government and tell us that what we're doing is illegal. We are above that system. That's what governance is all about. If we want to deal with ivory, and that's the job of government to do that. If you can't come, that's not how it works. So what you're talking about with Trump there. Oh, I remember Robert Mugabe when he was alive addressing Trump at the United Nations. He actually spoke. Right? Yeah, he did.
That must have been an event.
He would play with Trump's name. He would go Trump, trumpeting. Yeah.
He was mocking him. Okay.
Robert did it in such a way that you go, oh, is he mocking? And then he would say, trumpet your message, Donald Trump. So you think he's mocking, and then you go, oh, he's now changing it the other way, but he plays with your mind. You go, trumpeting your message of making America great again.
Yes.
Is it offensive? No, but he's played with your mind. He swings you.
Yep. And most people will not do that with Trump. They are just, my God, we're giving Trump awards for anything. People who win awards are giving it to him because simply he wants it. Okay, we're creating awards just for him. And that's like kind of like, even when my Apasta hubby came on, he was talking about, you know, giving everybody a trophy, like how ridiculous this is, but we have Trump just like accepting everybody's awards. It's just a big deal to him, you know, and I think that has to do with his mind and how that condition is treating him. It's tough to watch this and be have no power over it, but there have been some judges that have held him to the, you know, fire and stuff, and whether he does it or not is, you know, we have yet to see. So I was going to say something else about him. Okay, a lot of us here in the U.S. make America great again, which is actually what is the words behind the term MAGA. Okay, make America great again. This is something Ronald Reagan said, who was president, I believe, like in the 80s. Ronald Reagan, President Reagan said this, make America great again. But I also want to remind people that there was a guy with a little mustache back in the day that said, make Germany great again. Okay? So do know that, all right? And I believe it is being said today for very much the same reason as it was said back in the day with somebody with a little mustache. And I believe that goes in the lines of let's make it white again. Even those from South Africa who Trump brought over to the U.S. looking like he rescued them are saying they want to get the fuck out of the U.S. and go back to South Africa. Okay? They don't want to live under Trump. It's scary for them. Okay? That's going on. That's going on. And the reason behind this rescuing some South Africans is Trump was saying that they're being murdered on the farms and stuff. And somebody from South Africa, I don't even know his position, but Trump was trying to say, listen, you've got all these people that are murdering these farmers and stuff. And this person said, that's from before. That's not happening now. But Trump was not convinced and believed it was happening now, and, you know, invited them over. And I believe Musk had something to do with that as well. But
yeah, I saw it swing those ways, Linda James. And what it was there was a focus on something that wasn't quite correct.
Yeah.
Like there were all of those crosses on that road, and Trump was pointing, oh, these are all of these deaths, whereas it was symbolic. And it created a controversy because it was slightly inaccurate. But I also want to say to you, Linda James, South Africa is dangerous. It is really, really dangerous. So in a roundabout way, Trump was right, but maybe the thing that he was locking onto wasn't quite accurate, and it just, it just became messy. But in a way, yes, he was valid. But then also the persons that went over, they found other problems as well. It's a mess.
Yes, it really is.
But I get what you're taking. I don't want to undermine your point about, you know, somebody doesn't want to look like they're stupid when they're in a position of authority. It's we found with elders. If you get an elder that gets up and says, "Oh, corporal punishment is on the table, folks," and Jeffrey Jackson has said, "No, it isn't," your local elder doesn't want to look like an idiot, so you know what he does? He goes and he boots out Matt Gray.
That's right.
That's what, yeah. So does that relate to what you're talking about?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you confirming that it is dangerous there, that there is danger. It's not necessarily what Trump brought up as being the danger. Thank you for bringing that up.
I wouldn't be able to live. I wouldn't be able to have a farm in Durban or in Natal. It's very dangerous. I would be going, "Geez, this is just what, Matt? What are you doing?"
So it does happen there. It has. Some of the farmers are being murdered and such. Okay.
Yeah, I've been through, in my assignments, I've been in places where the farm is just on fire. I had my little car and the road was hot. My tires were melting and I'm going, you know what, if this car stops, I'm not going to get through the flames.
Yeah. Okay.
That was my own experience. But I mean, I've lived, you go, Matt, your life is full of these hectic stories. But yeah, that was what it was. But I mean, I've had R4 semi-automatics that pointed at my head, not just once. I've come out of that. But I was in such a mindset that I can live or die today, that in a way I got used to that. Mm-hmm. And now that we're talking, I go, I'm horrified. I was in those places, or I allowed myself to be in those places. I go, what the hell were you thinking, Matt? I'll tell you what I was thinking. I was thinking I'm forwarding the kingdom work, and whatever happens, and I've got God's angels on my side. That's how I got into those things.
Absolutely.
That's the power of behavioral control, information control.
Replacing institutional physical reality. Malura control. So if I wanted to create an atmosphere, which I have these little candles here. I'm creating an atmosphere when you look at it. It can be different lighting. It can be sporty stuff on the background of me. That would create a different reality or different atmosphere. So it's Malura. I think it's called Malura control, or
Well, if anybody wants to go into pop culture for an easy way to look at it, do you ever remember the film The Village from 2004? Do you remember that?
No, I haven't seen that.
So what you've just described in that film was an isolated community where they had raised the children to believe in like a boogeyman, and saying, don't go outside the village because they're demons, or there's these boogeymen that'll get you. But their whole idea was intentionally to save the children and go, we want to have a safe community. But then it was discovered that the boogeyman was the village elders. And it was as a containment and information control. So when you became an elder, you knew, we are the boogeyman, but it's to serve the greater good. It's to try and preserve the children so they never have to face the outside world. And it was almost like this very, very simple way of living, farming thing. And then when they got out, there was this technology and this incredible world on the outside. So the Village is an interesting film in describing what you've spoken about. It's a film that puts it into a very easy way to go, oh, this is why information control happens this way. I think I've spoiled the film for anybody who wants to see it, but yeah, that's how it works.
I don't think you've spoiled it. I think that you just presented something that if you want to see what information and behavior control looks like, check out this movie.
From The Village, yeah. So the film The Village, promoting it. Yeah, it was 2004. Bryce Dallas Howard, Joaquin Phoenix was in it. Yeah.
Who Phoenix?
Joaquin Phoenix.
Isn't he the one that died in front of
is connected to Johnny Depp at the Viper Lounge, right?
Yes, okay. He grew up in the family or the children of God. He grew up in a cult. Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. Interesting. Um, wow. Let's go to, I don't know. I'm trying to think if I want to add something more to it. Do you want to add anything more to it, or
Linda
are we?
James, I think you're handling it really well, and maybe it's just a time to pause a little bit. But yeah, do you want to go on to the next point?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Then we can kind of talk about it or decide not to. Minimize or discourage access to non-cult sources, which would be what this is. I'm going to start over. Number 2, minimize or discourage access to non-cult sources of information, including internet, TV, radio, books, articles, newspapers, magazines, and media. Critical information. Former members. Keep members busy because they don't have time to think and investigate. And then control through cell phones with texting, calls, and internet tracking. Yeah, these are all things that are understandable for a parent to do to a child, right? Limit their internet use, limit their TV use, radio, books, limit what they can read. Okay, all of these things. Um, Limit what the information is that they're taking in. Um, you might not want them to play with the kid down the street, right? So, you know, you might want to make sure that they're whoever they associate with, you know who they are. Um, the biggest one that I recognize is to keep members busy so they don't have time to think and investigate. And I call that to think and actually finish a thought. Okay? To think and finish the thought and then ponder past that one thought, which is where you work things out in your head to whether or not things make sense or not, or whether it rings true with you or not. But if you have more to do, you don't get to ponder. You don't have that rest time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, you really don't. Especially if you, well, like in that bike model, it says you have your sleep regulated, or you have not enough sleep.
yeah,
I mean, that's what happens.
you've actually mentioned that at times when you were working with other, servants of the org, how you guys would kind of brag about, oh, I only got 2 hours sleep last night. I only got 4. And you're still going for the, glory of God,
Yeah,
right? And
that's
it was
right.
something to be proud of, but you didn't know that the sleep deprivation was going to catch up with you later. That's actually
Yeah.
what happened with Steve Hassan. Just a few hours sleep here and there. He had his friends within, the Moonies that they, were talking much like you've mentioned. And then he fell asleep at the wheel when he was driving a van and got in
That's
a bad
right.
car accident and had to be like the Jaws of rescuing
Yeah.
Jaws to get him out and everything. So he was like in this body cast thing. So he's in the
Yeah.
hospital and had time away from the everyday indoctrination. And also,
Yes.
he was part of the higher echelons, much like yourself. You know what you've mentioned to us, Matthew. But
Well, yeah, because thanks for remembering, Linda James,
sure.
because I considered myself a friend of this person, and he was on a forklift, and he impaled himself. Sorry for saying this, he survived, just to put people minds at ease, and sorry if there's a shock factor, but it's what happened. He impaled himself. And was in shipping and dragged himself because he's in, I must survive, I must survive, I must survive. He dragged himself from one end of shipping to the shipping office, which was a hell of a distance, and he was bleeding out, and gets there, and he managed to get the emergency line, and that's when I was paged as a first aid responder. And I was down there in less than 5 minutes. I think it took me 4 minutes to get down there. But that was sleep deprivation, and that was the leadership feeling very proud to tell the governing body, oh, by the way, we've increased productivity by, I don't know, 200% or whatever it was, or doubled the productivity. Like we're building the Death Star and telling the Emperor, that we're all on track,
Yeah.
And the guys were very proud, saying, oh, we've moved beds in here, or we're sleeping in the corridors and things, because the end of the world is about to come, Armageddon, we're saving lives. This is what happened. And this was, when did this happen? Believe it or not, and it feels like yesterday, 10, 11, 12, almost 13 years ago this happened.
Wow. I've heard of this kind of thing happening like in Silicon Valley for certain projects, which is mid to northern California. I've heard of this happening within Scientology, the very same kind of thing, When there's sleep deprivation happening, they can hand you something to sign and you'll sign anything, especially if you've been trained to trust the people in authority positions. That's why I've brought up over and over again that we're in a place either by the organization or sometimes our government, which I believe that's happening to us now here in the US, where they want to keep us on tactical alert in a state of being afraid so that we don't think clearly. And anybody who is in a uniform equals authority position, okay? If there's a fire that happens and they say the exit's over there, everybody's going to follow their directions. Everybody. Even if the kid is 16, okay? If he's wearing an apron that says the name of the store that you're in, you're going to do exactly what he says. He's with someone, that apron says he's in the know. He knows better than anybody that's a customer there. So you would follow these directions. So it's a way of making it to where we follow directions of people in higher authority in the government. That's what they're doing to us.
Mark Sanderson was alerted to that accident with my pal.
Oh, wow.
And my pal realized that I made a stand, and so it affected our relationship from his point of view, because I'm looked at as the bad guy. But Mark Sanderson was involved in that because it got to the chairman's office. Because why? It presented a liability. And then what the leadership did was they came in with a new, a branch visit. And they went, this is outrageous. This should never have happened. Yeah, and
I have lost your sound for some reason.
It sounds great when they make these changes. And they said, no, this will never happen again. And it always lasts like a month or 2 months, and then it's back to square one.
Yes. Because it probably didn't get tweaked in the right way.
Yeah. Or they just needed to get the heat off them. And this is the other thing that I noticed with inspectors. Because like South Africa is its own township, so so you find with these places where there's a Lloydale type title, they can appoint their own inspectors and can kind of keep things in house. And then if you've got two other places where you've got townships, you can interchange your inspectors to, on paper, make it look like there's no conflict of interests. Oh, it's so sneaky, eh? Oh, wow. Yeah. Wow.
It's sad. It's like there's that light bulb. Went right on. Just turned right on.
Well, we're back to information control, exactly what you've been talking about. Linda, right on the mark.
So what I recall being raised as Jehovah's Witnesses, yes, I could do my research. I could do my own research only within Watchtower literature. So I actually had information control done on me as I was growing up. I couldn't do research from the viewpoint of any other religion, any other kind of concordances, which are kind of like a dictionary that gives explanations of certain things in the Bible and certain people that have been scholars in the past and what their conclusions were. Okay. I wasn't allowed to look at something like that. We had something similar when I was growing up called the Aid to Bible Understanding. That was kind of similar. And that's actually something that took years to put together, but it was very well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Linda James, crumba bumba, hey.
Critical information, not to speak to former members, and keep members busy. Control through cell phone and tracking and texting. See, this is something normal a parent can do with their teenagers. Okay? Might the teenager be pissed about it? Uh-huh. But you know what? The parent who's responsible for the teenager is entitled to do this. All right? And you can decide what to think of it. But when it's 3 a.m. in the morning and the mother or father wants to find their child, they can find it through the phone tracking device, and or give them a call and say, where you at? And if they say they're still having pizza, we would know better, okay? They could just go like, get your hiney home right now, son. And then, it kind of holds them accountable more. These are all things that a parent is entitled to do with a child. An organization or religion entitled to do to grown adults? Think about that. Does that keep us in an infantile position with that leadership? Ask yourself that.
Well, I was thinking about ResNet, which was internet control at the branch. So they were saying, oh, well, you've got internet access. Isn't that great so that you can go and do research? But you couldn't go to any site that you wanted. And the way that the ResNet worked, it would just bounce you off, or it would look like there was an error. And you don't even notice. You don't even notice that you've been controlled. And if you've typed in certain things, that the ResNet system has reported you to the branch committee. Wow.
So that's part of why we use different terminology for different things, even here on YouTube.
Yeah.
Technology, yeah.
Yeah, so that was it. I remember one Gilead instructor came to me and said, "Oh, Matt, by the way, I've been assigned on the hub system to go and counsel a married sister." He said, "Why?" He says, "For pornography. She has a pornography problem." And he says, "I've got to just tell you, Matt, I'm going to translate. He's going, this is a nonsense assignment. This is a nonsense assignment. It's embarrassing. It's ridiculous. And he's got to involve the husband, but he has to carry out this assignment. He's got to be the chairman of this thing." And he's going, "I want to just throw this thing out right now. She does not have a pornography problem. She was looking for lingerie, which is between her and her husband, and the system just caught it, which is what happens with us on YouTube when certain words are used. And it says, this was just an AI that indiscriminately reported her to the branch committee, and the branch committee has agreed to this thing, and it's just part of the system. That's what's happened." And he's going, "And I've got stupid young elders that are with me that are wanting to say, no, this is a pornography problem." And it happened to me too, Linda James. It happened to me.
Were you looking for lingerie too?
No, apparently I had a pornography problem. I was shunned at the branch. I'll tell you what happened. Do you know Joop Jeans? Joop. It's a brand of jeans.
No, but I believe you.
So the jeans were donated clothing, and on the back it's got an emblem with two men, like Michelangelo's David. And it's got his phallic, which is a tiny little stitch, tiny little thing. And one of the sisters was in the laundry and saw this pair of jeans, which had been donated, which had this emblem with Joop Jeans and Michelangelo's David. And she threw a fit in the in the what is it? The laundry, and she was a prominent sister with a prominent husband, you know, and she made such a scene. I got called in for pornography. I've committed a sin because they said, don't you know that in the branch you are not allowed to have slogans on your clothing? And you have used this pair of jeans. I said, wow, okay. Thanks very much for coming in here. Yeah, number one, this was donated clothing. So already this got through the system. This was for work. But now I'm dealing with pornography. I said, what is the greatest law that we have? It's the law of love. So I said, you know what I was taught to do? And I took a black marker out in front of everybody and I drew a pair of pants on him. And I said, you know, love covers everything, right?
Wow.
I said, tell me, have we just covered the problem? And the overseer said, yes. And she was furious. I didn't know it was her, but she got furious because she lost control. She wanted somebody to pay for this crime. And what happened was it was a demonstration. I was just being an elder again and going, oh, you just cover over the situation. Here's a black pen. We've just, does this satisfy you? And I did it with the overseer. He says, yeah, I'm satisfied with that. Yeah, that's a good way to do this. And when it created the solution, it didn't go the way she wanted.
Wow.
And she disfellowshipped me on the spot. She wouldn't talk to me. If I was in the passage, and I happened to be next to her in the passage, and she got so cross, she stormed down the passage and started pushing people.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. She got. And sisters got hurt. And I said, excuse me, can you calm down, please? The people are getting hurt here. And it made it even worse because she was exposed and for being aggressive. And and then I was assigned by the branch to go and counsel her, which made it even worse. So I had to phone her husband and say, can you be present? And he says, yes. I've got to admit to you, Matt, there is a problem here. You're quite right. There is a problem. She's been for psychometric assessment, and the doctors are saying, no, there's nothing wrong with her mentally. This is just her personality. And
that's what her husband said?
Yeah, he says, I've got to tell you, I know this is my wife. She has a real problem. And it exposed the network, and then of course all her friends. There was a clique of these sisters with this terrible controlling behavior, and they were making people's lives miserable because they had these prominent husbands and they were given these assignments. And so I would get a truck assignment, and then of course her friends who knew about this thing, they made my life a living hell because they were going, oh, you coming in here counseling our buddy, are you? Well, you're on your own for this assignment. It's all coming crashing down now, isn't it, Matt? So excuse me for saying, am I allowed to use BITCH? Am I allowed to use that?
Yes.
It was a bunch of real bitchy, conniving people, and that is the culture of Bethel, and that's what happens. Yeah. So as we're going through information control here, all these memories are coming up. Yeah.
You know, competition amongst each other, it happens, but it seems strange to me for it to happen, because if we're all in unity, we're all in the same page. Wouldn't it be like, like heaven's opened up and hell is good? But there's this thing where people are pitted against each other. That happens from the leadership too. This is also happening within the United States administration, like amongst Congress and stuff. So leadership like that likes to do things and walk away and sit back and watch the chaos happen. That's a possibility too that could have been happening in what you're saying, or maybe not at all. But that's something that I don't think that way, but I've come to learn just this year, like January, February, March, just this year, that this is a thing that happens. People are pitted against each other. And you know what else happens when you're being pitted against each other? You don't get to have any real, honest, authentic friendships. Okay? There's that. And then there's the culture that we have to tell on each other to save them and, make sure they live through Armageddon and this whole, if we don't tell on them, their blood will be upon us during Armageddon, stuff. So, yeah. It's amazing. These things do happen. They happen within, different institutions. Okay. What happens to us when we leave an institution? Okay. And you might recognize this as something that happens with people that will leave prisons. But this happens to those of us that leave high control groups or cults. We will have what is called institutional syndrome. And it's very hard for us to assimilate within society at large when we're not used to the culture of society at large. We're used to the subculture that we were in, okay? That was our normal. And then we're out here acting like what was normal in here, out in society at large, which is socially unacceptable behavior. And we don't know why people are yelling at us, okay? We just don't know. We're that naive, that ignorant. So, it's good for us to do a lot of observing. It's good for us to get to know the culture. But that's also understandable when you've been socially delayed. And that's something that will happen to a child growing up in this organization. I can remember every year my mother showing up before school started and talking to my teachers and saying what I could and could not do. And I can remember every year hearing the teachers say something to the effect of socializing. And she'd be like, "Oh, but we do our socializing, okay?" A lot of us as children growing up in this organization lived a very lonely, isolated lives. I've heard of situations like when my apostle husband talked about the congregation he was involved in when he was growing up. They used to hang out. They had a good group of people around the same age. They used to hang out and do things quite often. I don't know what that is even like. I didn't experience that growing up at all. So if you can't associate with non-JWs and you can only associate with JWs, which I've come to find I was considered spiritually weak because my dad was not really a follower. I didn't know about that until later in life either. So within the, tier system within a congregation, the elders' children wouldn't want to associate, the parents wouldn't want them to associate with other children, maybe even their age, that are considered spiritually weak. So I wasn't invited to many of the things that happened that I got to find out about later. And I remember hearing them talking about it, what a great time they had, and never knowing why I wasn't invited, So I find these things out later that didn't make sense at the time. So where I was going with institutional syndrome is, because it's so tough to assimilate into society at large, there will be times that people will go and do things that put them right back into prison. Or people do return to high control groups again because they haven't been able to find a place of normalcy in society at large. So what I'm hoping is that when I say these things happen, they're normal, it's to support you in your attempt to assimilate into society at large. If you're having panic attacks and stuff, that's normal from trauma or maybe other things, It's normal to feel awkward and not understand certain social fluids because we didn't learn them,
Bourne says it sounds like you were soft shunned, Linda.
It does sound like that, doesn't it? Yeah.
But I'm gonna say this, Linda James. If you had been ultra compliant, you were still going to be abused. You know, sometimes there's this thing to say, oh, I didn't fit in, or my character didn't allow me to fit in, and I was isolated as a child. Guess what? If you had, what's the ideal JW? To be this pioneer at 8 years of age? I don't know. But let's say, for instance, you ticked all the boxes. Well, then you could be like me and sent off to some awful territory, homeless, and in a political hotbed. The treatment was still bad.
Yeah.
You could be an anointed elder.
Yeah.
You would be treated like crap.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter what kind of tier, what kind of level, what kind of acceptance. But the thing is, you sort of go, I wasn't a pioneer. I brought this upon myself. And you've got this guilt thing for this toxic atmosphere. No, it's toxic from beginning to end. I'll tell you about a chief researcher, because you were talking about panic attacks. They medicated for panic.
Yeah.
That's a chief writer of Watchtower. This person has got a glowing career of 40. They're a mess. They're a mess.
Oh, wow.
And you look at another researcher in the same department, also same, medicated.
Yes.
For panic.
Okay. So high anxiety and panic attacks also can be, and I'm not a doctor, I'm a retired hairdresser, a pseudo-psychologist, can be symptoms of depression, clinical depression. But if you don't know,
we see a pattern, don't we? We make a judgment and we say we defer to the clinicians and to the Steve Hussons. And because we don't have a PhD, because Linda James doesn't have a PhD or Matt doesn't have a PhD, we can't rely on those that do have a PhD like Steve Husson. Well, somewhere along the line, we've got to navigate these kind of things, and we see a pattern, right? Is that fair? I'll say I'm open to correction.
Yeah, and it, you know, and I like the way you'll present things, and even I tend to as well. You know, that's not always the case, but we've come to find that we do see these patterns, and patterns are not to ignore. They're just not to ignore. Pay attention to patterns. You know, pay attention to them. They show up for a reason. Okay, so I'm going to go on to number 3. Compartmentalize information into outsider versus insider doctrine. Okay, ensure that information is not freely accessible. Can somebody say the Shepherd the Flock of God manual? Okay. Control information at different levels and missions within the group. Allow only leadership to decide who needs to know and what and when. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. The things we discover on a need to know basis. We don't find them out until, well, we need to know. Because they weren't really taught to us. Right?
Well, I'll quote a coordinator of a branch, and his wife would frequently say to him, honey, you didn't let me know about this. This has come to light now. You didn't let me know. And he would always say, honey, you didn't need to know.
Wow.
I promise you.
Oh, no, I believe you. I totally believe you. And Shepherd the Flock of God, which is also referred to as the Elder's Manual. Women are not allowed to get into that manual and read it, you know, and this is something that the elders will use to, you know, correct or discipline or to know what to do according to the governing body and how they want things ran. Because ultimately, it's done in an organized manner, and Jehovah is an organized God. Yes, he is. Oh my God, Grey Wolf said, "Ooh, I stepped in some normal." Get it off, get it off. Oh, that's hilarious. Stepped in some normal stuff. Okay. So, yep. To ensure information is not freely given or freely accessible. If you do choose to start going to maybe another church, or maybe you're on a journey of finding another church to go to, when you do go to a church, you can ask for a list of their doctrines, okay? And what their mission statement is, okay? A lot of times if you go to like a Sunday, their Sunday services, they'll hand you out this little thing that folds, paper. A lot of times it's on that thing there, but sometimes it's not, and you're entitled to know these things, okay? So ask them for that, okay? So that I'm saying that so that because of what I'm reading here, allow only leadership to decide who needs to know what and when. No, the first one, freely accessible things regarding like doctrine and stuff. And let's see how much we have to go here. We have 3 more.
So, Linda James, just before that was that last point, what to know and when. Is that right?
Yeah, like the leadership kind of decides what followers need to know and when. Yeah.
Linda James, you normally start off that I am your favorite apostate. Okay,
Yeah.
we didn't do a disclaimer. We should have done a disclaimer, but this disclaimer, if I may launch into it,
Please do.
is we take the thesis with antithesis for synthesis and healthy skepticism for essential critical thinking on this channel. We're not the experts here. We're just persons chatting together as pals or as friends, or trying to navigate these kind of things together. But when it comes to also on this need to know, there was something that happened last week. And I wondered, Linda James, by way of appeal, when it comes to information, I wonder if we could let the cult of Linda James, and I'm just tongue in cheek, that's just me being naughty, because no, I don't believe we are like that. But I'm just tuning into, yes, I am your favorite apostate, and I will wash your brain and all of this kind of thing. And it's just kind of mocking the abusive system that we came from. So I hope that clarifies where it comes from. But the thing that did happen last week, and if I may, Linda James, because we are over the 2 hour 30 minutes, with 2 hours 36 minutes, right. There was a request last week with respects to an event. And it was the memorial. And I wanted to just say to you that brief was carried out. And I don't know if it's an appropriate time to let the community know that I don't view us as a negative cult. Okay, let's get that straight. It's just a joke, and it's tongue in cheek, and it's part of recovery. But no, I'm interested in this, and I'm serious about this. Well, we did make an arrangement, and I don't know if it's appropriate to talk about that, Linda James, if we can just make a pause.
I appreciate you bringing this up, because I did want to make time to talk about it, and I did want to make time to promote it. So I'm at number 4 on information control, which is encouraging spying on other members. So I'm going to pick that up next week or whenever. Okay? Whenever. We're going to pick it up on spying. And yes, I would like to switch this over to Gigi. Last week was like, I want to have a memorial, right? And we were talking about it, and I looked at Matthew thinking that's just going to be something that would come so natural for him. And he allowed himself to be the person to do that. And he asked me if I'd be a backup, and I said yes. And I'm totally in support of previous Jehovah's Witnesses having something that they can go to that is to represent the memorial that we used to be a part of within the organization, but we're making it uniquely our own today. And I've had a chance to watch, I believe, the memorial talk that will be happening on that day. Is it the the one that will be happening on that day?
Okay, so that's a good question. So what I decided to do is, instead of surprising everybody with taking the information and adapting it so that it leads into, what does the memorial mean to you? Was it good? Was it bad? What does it mean to you? And you can interact any way. You can say, it traumatizes me, or you can say, no, I get comfort from this, or however which way you want to interact with it. That was the idea. And coming back to last week, to anybody who wants to take a look at what happened on the channel, was just saying, okay, let's do it that way, where it gives an interface where if somebody wants to say, look, I'm liberated, I'm taking this bread and I'm taking this wine, it's an act of liberation to me, like what Gail was talking about. So, well, we're going to do a live stream where, we could play that video which has been done, and the reason why I released it and didn't surprise everybody is just so that you can say, oh no, there's information. We don't have this information control like was happening in the negative high control environment. It's not a guarded thing where we're guarding the outline. Nobody must know about it until nice and 14. No, take a look at it. If it's cool with you, great. If you'd like it readjusted, I'll go and do another one. I'll go and do another video, because this is yours. This is ours. And it happened here. It happened on Linda James's channel. It happened on Apostle Babe's channel, or Apostle Babe's channel. So if you want to adjust it, that's great. There's 2 songs. There's an opening song. There's a closing song, which is kind of the traditional way that it's done. There's even invocations or prayers, sample invocations that are on the post sections of my channel, just in case somebody says, well, what do I say for the bread? What do I say for the wine? Or what do I say to close the meeting? And I go, well, if you want to bring that on the live stream, now that video is there, you can decide, no, I don't want to be part of the live stream, but I'd like to have control over playing this video. Well, then you've got that choice. Or if you want to play the music, you've got the choice. If you want to come onto the live stream, we've been testing live stream and going, folks, how is this thing working? And you've got on there, and Sheila's got on there, and various ones have got on there and said, you've got a few problems. But I think we ironed out the bugs with a broadcast yesterday, and going, this stream, like StreamYard, I'm using Video Ninja, and various ones are coming on, and it seems to be working. So that's the idea. If somebody wants to come on, I'm going to try and start a live stream, and I'm still trying to think, do I play that video that's already on YouTube? I think I can loop it so that if anybody comes on, then suddenly it can switch over to somebody who wants to talk, and they can. Or if there's a space between the talk, they can come in and say, I'm partaking here. Or in the talk where it's the bread and the wine, it can get involved there. Or if it's after the talk, somebody can say, this absolutely triggers me, Matt, and this is why. But to do it in a dignified way and just say, I'll listen to you. What's happening? Well, I'm swearing my head off. I go, okay, well, I get where you're coming from. And already we've had some interactions. We've had some people saying, I just can't do this, Matt. Can't do it. Can't do it. Yeah. And then other persons are actually excited about it. And I'm going, oh, you know what? All of these various reactions, I think that's ticking the boxes of the brief, right? So over to you, Linda James. I don't know if that covers it or if it answers you.
Well, let me tell you about the first time I took communion out of the organization, okay? And when I finally did enough research to be okay, because the memorial that I grew up with really said to not take it undeservingly or something to that effect. So when I knew that I had the grace and the freedom to take the communion, I literally bawled my eyes out with I wasn't sad. I was very, very thankful. And I can just remember I put my head down like on the pew ahead of me and just sobbed, okay?
Right.
And I had a big old puddle of tears on the cement floor. And it was one of the most monumental events of my life. And I think that the memorial, when you when you have the freedom to partake and it's something you desire to do, it can be a really beautiful thing. And yet I get other people that are like, whatever, or you know what, I actually try to avoid situations like that. You know, it can be any of these things. For me, it was amazingly one of the most beautiful things I've ever experienced. It really was. And because of what it was for me, humongous, momentous, more words I can't even come up with. At that time, I believed that, you know, I would be with God in my afterlife, whether it was going to be on earth, whether it was going to be in heaven. I don't know, maybe a different planet. I don't know. At that time, I had reassurance that I would be with God in after my life ended. And I believe that nobody can snatch a child of God out of his hand. And that's what scripture says. So the belief system I grew up with was, you know, you can lose your salvation if you act inappropriately, wasn't where I was at. I was in a place of mainstream Christianity with so much more freedom. And it was one of the most amazing spiritual things I ever had gone through. And I am looking forward to, you know, this happening on April 2nd or April 1st, however that's going to line up for you. I see that John said that it's on the wrong day, that it's on April Fool's, meaning April 1st. Gigi or Gail mentioned that somebody who's Jewish told her it was on the 2nd. And that's what we decided to do.
So we're doing it in a 24-hour window as we move into different time zones, if that makes sense. So there is a sundown, like in your time, that would be in a different time zone. So we were going, okay, well, where is the first sundown on the planet? Where does that happen? And can we mark that as a 24-hour for the streaming service to begin? And that was the idea. Maybe it should run for 48 hours. I don't know, but I wouldn't have the stamina to do it.
I was just going to ask you, how is that going to, like, how do we do this?
So yeah, how do we do this? Is a good question. So I was thinking, I on the StreamYard, I can actually put together like the first song, the talk, the second song, and have it loop. I can do that, or maybe put in like an interval of like half an hour of just pretty pictures or pretty videos or whatever, just going, would be your time to come and interact or something like that. And I just wanted to talk with you just to say, well, what does the community feel is the best way to do it? I can come up with that as an idea, but I don't necessarily have all the solutions. Maybe the community is going, we should do it in a certain way, but what I thought is my StreamYard or Video Ninja, I can play a song, the opening song, do the video, which has got places where the video can actually stop. A person can pray, eat the bread, drink the wine, or do the next prayer for that. There's a place if they want to do that. Then the video resumes, does the last song, and then you've got a space of maybe like half an hour or an hour before it repeats the cycle. I was thinking maybe to do that. And then if anybody wants to click the link, they can just pop up on like we're doing, like your face is here and my face is here. They can interact. And they could do it that way, or they could blank off their video. Some might just have an avatar, for instance, or just have a blank screen. They can still interact, or they can still interact in the live stream chat like we're doing here. YouTube does it, apparently. I've never done this, but apparently it allows 12-hour streams.
Yeah.
So somewhere along the line, it would go on, like we've done 3 hours here. So right. There would be 4 of those, and then it would stop, and then another stream would start up again. And folks, unless you've got a better way to do it, I don't know how we would do this for, everyone on the world. But that was what I was thinking. And the other thing too, Linda James, if you were going, oh, Matt, I can be your backup and I can do the talk. Let's say, for instance, somebody hits my channel or something happens and it goes down. I don't know. There's Rumble. Rumble's got a backup, and TikTok's got. By the way, I'm amazed. I got more response on TikTok than I was surprised, because TikTok allowed the upload, and I got interaction from people. Yeah, we love this thing.
So it's less than an hour, right? I think
Yeah,
TikTok
yeah.
allows for an hour. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 40 minutes, and I think normally
Okay.
for the memorial it's like about 45 minutes, so it's just about 5 minutes shy or I think it's about an hour. Normally the memorials are an hour when you include the passing of the bread and the wine. Okay, so it's well under the normal time limit. Okay, that's the one thing. If you did want to say, Matt, I'm actually very keen to do a talk myself. If you want to use my outline, I've done the whole transcription, so YouTube has got a transcription. If you want to use it, you're very free to do that, and you can come in and do the same. Or if you want to adapt it or do your own, you're also welcome just to do that, Linda Jane. I'm trying to just free up everybody just to say, look, there's no rules here.
Yeah.
Other than let's be dignified.
I have watched it, and I think it's so like welcoming of all kinds of different beliefs. You can partake or not partake. You can just observe. It's like applies to so many different places that many of us are at. So I would just rather push play the one you did. Okay, play, and I'd play your video, because I think it was incredibly well done visually, and you've someplace I read that you call yourself a storyteller, and that showed up in that video as you were telling the story, and that's one of your gifts that I really enjoyed seeing, as far as being a storyteller. Thank you.
Well, thanks very much for that. And I saw some. Was it Jay Mars was just talking about the time? Purple saying start the international date line and keep it going for 48 hours until it wraps all the way around the world twice. Purple, maybe I just don't know about my own personal stamina. I'm even thinking, gee, the 24-hour thing, I might be finished. I might just have to automate it and go, there's nothing else that I can do except just have it in a loop, and I've got to go and lie down. And I don't know, maybe that might be risky. I might have to turn off video. And I don't know.
Is there a way to set it up for pre-scheduled for, let's say every 4 hours? Okay.
Well, let's put it this way. You can go to the actual talk and you can play it manually.
Yes.
So let's say, for instance, I don't have the stamina and I can't do streaming all the time. Let's say, right? Because that might happen. I can't guarantee. I go, look, my intention is to have it on for 24. I don't know if I can do it.
Right.
But you can, if you want to go to the music, you can play the first song. You can play the remembrance talk or the memorial talk. I call it the Remembering Supreme Love talk. And you can do the closing song. So even without the streaming, you can still get on there and you can still comment. Why can't you go onto that video and put in the comments, oh, I've just taken the bread, I've just taken the wine, and it's my public declaration?
In my mind, that seems suitable. Purple is talking about something that she put together a few years back that has just turned into a 24-hour thing for Christmas. And you and I are starting off with this thing like it's you and I. We want to kind of schedule this to where many people could see it. And how can we serve to get as many people that might want to see it. So I like what you're saying. People can give a comment after, and I'm wondering if pre-scheduled times, maybe every 4 or 5 hours, we can do something like this, and there'll be a live chat, so there'll be some interaction. So that's something enjoyable too. So
maybe that's a good solution, Linda James, is just to schedule. We're going to do a StreamYard, or I say StreamYard, but we're going to do a live stream Video Ninja at maybe 4-hour intervals and do it for 2 hours or something like this. And whoever comes on, and whoever doesn't. I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that where you're coming from?
Yes. So let's say it's convenient for you to do 2 of the whatever we've decided, and then I can do the other 2 because you might be asleep and vice versa. Together we'll figure out how to do a good 4 of them, maybe, And yes, anybody can show up and just start it on their own timing, and leave a comment afterwards, like any other video that can be watched and a comment can be left.
Okay,
but
cool.
Reschedule maybe 3 to 4 time zones that people can look forward to going to and hanging out in the chat like we're doing here. You mentioned also something earlier about people can join you and maybe do prayer. I'm wanting to suggest that because we were indoctrinated to believe that we should not pray with other people because they might be praying to a different God than us. We were taught to fear this. And being that we're all at our own pace in our journey of healing, some people might still have that mindset. And if they see somebody praying, that could be I'm not
triggering
saying triggering, exactly. I'm not saying we need to shift everything to make sure everybody's always comfortable, but I picture that when being, I actually like how the video is kind of very respectful. It's like you give it kind of this moment of silence before the bread and before the wine. And to me, that symbolized maybe a prayer time or, maybe a pondering time of what the bread that we're about ready to partake in or observe, what it represents to us.
In my when I say post section, so I've got the videos, but also YouTube has got posts where you put text and pictures and things like this. Yes. So in that section, I've got, I didn't even call it prayer. I think I called it invocation and benediction. Because if you look up invocation, an invocation can be a prayer.
Okay.
So I just tried to steer away from something that could be potentially triggering. And I said, you've got a choice. There's 3. Choose them if you want to work on those. So just to maybe draw some awareness that it's already there. So what I'm trying to say is the memorial's been done in a way. To get Gigi's brief, I'd like to believe that we're up to date and it's all in place. So even prayers are there, songs are there, the memorial's there. I actually found a recording of a memorial that I did, and I thought, should I post it? But it's JW, and I thought, I don't actually want to do that. I think what we discussed together, this meets the criteria. If somebody wants a JW talk, I will put it on there and I will label it a JW talk. But I kind of steered clear of it because when we were talking together, it sounded like let's have it the most inclusive it can possibly be. And this is the best. This is the reason why it's come together in the technical side. We've got persons like Sheila. This has come together from a collective. This has come together from us. So if somebody writes on my channel and says, Matt, we need this, then I'll say, okay, well, try and get it in time because these things take work to produce them, and I'm maxed out. So we've only got the next couple of days. If you've got an idea that something needs to be made, it's got to happen in the next couple of days. Don't mean to push people for time, but the Thursday's coming up quick. So does that answer that thing on prayer enough?
I think so. So if somebody says they'd like to see a certain thing involved in that talk that you're going to give, is that something you could edit into the already existing video, or do you have to?
What if so if they want prayers, then I would have to do a video on that. But I think the prayer thing is very awkward. The way to do it is just like the post. It's there. If somebody wants to draw from it, let them do that. If they want to, let's say the live stream's on, and Gigi says, Matt, I'm used to a man praying. Could you pray? I would consider it. I would see, okay, who's on the audience? Okay, Gigi, it looks like we can do this for you. You've asked this. This is between you, me, and God, or higher power, or supreme power here. Okay, here it is. For Gigi, because it was her request, I would do that. But I don't think I would use Jehovah. I think that would grate. I don't think I would do it. I would probably do it according to the invocation that I've put on the post, because we know that the name Jehovah it's come from Raymondus Martini. We know that this is part of a control thing. My own personal thing is I wouldn't be comfortable using that name. Some pioneers who are in contact with me, they say, Matt, will you pray with me? And I go, you do understand I'm not going to use that name, and you understand why, don't you? And they go, yeah, Matt, we do understand. I go, well, then let's hit it. And I'm also not necessarily going to say through Jesus, because this J is a modern invention. I say I can't go back on the knowledge that I know even about Jesus. I can't do it. So I've come to a certain knowledge myself. If you're asking me to do certain things, there's certain things I'm not comfortable doing. But I like to negotiate beforehand to say, well, are we on the same page? Do we respect each other? If you're still requesting me to, as much of an oddball as I am, or as much as I do things different, if you want me involved, I'll do it. Because I can actually cooperate. If you say to me, Jehovah is the true God of the governing body, I will say yes. I'm not lying. They are the God of the governing body. Jehovah has appointed. Yeah. In that framework, it's true. Right. So I'm not trying to be sneaky or anything like this. I'm trying to say, look, let's be transparent about this thing. I actually believe our spiritual development as a community, I'm seeing us being quite emergent with the way that we do approach these things. And it's not a lie. It's not a deception. I actually believe we're being very, very transparent, very, very truthful. And that's where we're coming from. Have I lost you there, Linda James? Is it making sense?
No, it is making sense. You're talking about your conscience and what your conscience would be going through if you were requested to do a prayer. And it's neat to hear where you're at in your growth of what you're willing to do and not willing to do. That's amazing to me.
If you gave a prayer, Linda James, I'd sit in. I'd go, Linda James, great prayer.
I'm at a place today where I can hear people pray, and I'm not concerned about whether they're praying to the right God or not. I tune into the intention and what is being said. And I think it was in government like a couple of years ago. They ended a prayer with amen and a woman.
Yeah.
That was talked about for months, like how, sacrilegious that was. And I thought it was the funniest thing ever, It was and I know it was an attempt to be inclusive, yet having fun, in the presence of their God. Yeah.
Yeah. So somebody might end off with an invocation, like in Theosophy, they say, so be it. They don't say amen, because you've got your Amen Ra connection, and you're going, oh, that's another deity,
Yes.
So, I'm not trying to replace anybody's religion here in the community. I'm just saying that these are different angles of looking at things. That they said, from one perspective, Amen Ra is going back to Egypt again. That's a pyramid slave system. I don't want to have anything to do with it. And somebody might come, and then somebody says, you know what? It's my intention. Amen to me means, so be it. We're in agreement. And I go, okay, I get where you're coming from. Yeah, why not? So I hope I'm presenting, both sides here, and there's also the in between. There's all of these multiple aspects, and it represents the diversity.
That's what I loved about, and thank you for posting it ahead of time, because there's a lot associated to the Jehovah's Witness memorial. Some think of it as like a black mass, and if they hadn't seen what's coming up that you're going to deliver, there could be some fear there, because we don't know what's coming up. Just being able to see it ahead of time takes away any surprises. It's like, oh, it's going to sound like, so this is what it's going to be like. Okay. So that, I think, turned out to be kind of a good idea. I don't like surprises, okay? Especially when it has to do with spiritual stuff and all that, whatever. But back to, okay, can Ninja, the service that you're using for streaming, can you schedule?
Yeah, so Video Ninja, I think this is the tricky thing. If I put the link there, anybody can come on, and you saw that in the streams, the person that comes on has got quite a amount of control and autonomy there. Yes, as the host, if somebody got abusive, for instance, which could happen, somebody could decide to troll this thing and go, if this whole thing, blah, 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 mother effers, whatever. Okay, let's say it gets out of hand,
Right.
I have the ability, even though somebody has control in Video Ninja, I have the ability to turn them off or to do that. So I saw that is there. So although somebody can come on and they can control whether their face is there, I also have that control, which means I have to be present. Or I could put Video Ninja on and not reveal the link, in which case everybody's locked out. So I could do that, and then I could just have this thing loop. But, if you're doing some StreamYard responsibly in YouTube, to not monitor it, is that really responsible? Would you feel comfortable saying, oh, I'm just going to go away and eat something? Or you say, no, Matt, do you mind just stepping in while I dash out and, deal with eating or bathroom or whatever? It feels better just to be able to monitor the whole thing and still have some kind of control over it, even if you sort of like saying, I'm going to sort of nap in between here. Look, it's a challenging thing. This thing that Gail came up with, this wasn't small potatoes.
No. And when she said it, I reverted back to my first time taking Passover or whatever, and what it meant to me, okay? And how this is a big deal for previous Jehovah's Witnesses, because a lot of us were not able to partake. I can't even tell you, well, it was every year for 19 years, to be able to see anybody partake. So we passed the wine, passed the bread. Oh, but there was this one guy that used to show up at every meeting, and every year he would partake. And I literally saw the elders physically throw him out the back door, like, boom, I just threw him out, and that's my memories.
Yeah.
But, it's the way things are set up in this thing, this presentation or talk or whatever we want to call it, that you've put together, it's so visually beautiful. And the way you present it, I'm telling you.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. And when you say it's been a collective effort. Without persons like yourself, or Bourne came on, Sheila came on. Without persons coming on, it wouldn't have got to where it was. When I say I was out to sea, I mean, I did a stream. I think you came on and it was choppy and it was. I'm like, geez, I want to take this thing down. It's like embarrassing, you know. But I think we've got to the stage now. Because we all got together and discussed this thing. We've now got Video Ninja, which is working like StreamYard. Hello, StreamYard's been really expensive, and we've now got Video Ninja. We're getting, you know, some power to us, you know. So and working through all the bugs. So the way that we got to this talk, it was because of what happened here on this channel. I see that J Mars says, what's the day supposed to be? Good question. Says, I wonder if the Passover and JW memorials are on the wrong date. J Mars, I'm going to say this to you. Is there time slippage with the Gregorian calendar? And the other thing too is I want to point out, you may notice that on some years you have a full moon. And in other years, JW got it wrong.
Oh, yeah. Yes, they did.
And I brought this up with research department, and they had to go and pop more pills because they went, yeah, this happened. This happened. Said, oh, by the way, there's a slippage on the day. And they went, you're right.
And they can't change it. And they can't change it.
Can't change. It's already in motion. It's already happened. And you know what they did? It showed there were two systems. There was a mathematical calculation, and then there's nature, because the moon doesn't shift. Where did Israel become a dedicated nation? Was at Mount Sinai, moon mountain, feminine volcano mountain.
Okay.
This is all moon energy. It's all nature. It's not according to a calculation. Although, yes, you can go according to a mathematical calculation. But these things in mathematics are not always exact and precise. You know, it doesn't work that way. It's more likely that if you're going according to that system, you're going according to an astrological phenomenon. You're going according to what's happening in nature, because can you say that the moon, shining full moon, is wrong? No, it's doing what it's always done for millennia. You can't say it's wrong, you know, because it doesn't meet your mathematical calculation. So to answer J Mars, you know, you bringing the right questions. You know, what day is it supposed to be? I would be more inclined to say, you know, we are biological. We are linked into planetary movements and planetary forces and moon forces, and women's cycles are linked into this, and the way that we do things. A lot of what nature has happened is circadian rhythms, and Schumann resonances of the earth, and aurora borealis, and how we're affected with the heart and all of these energetic forces. We're more inclined towards that than some mathematical formula that comes from JW. Okay, but bear in mind that Gigi's brief was just going, Matt, can you sort of get close to what I was used to, so that I could just liberate myself and take the bread and the wine, which I was told was a big no-no. And I think that was the movement. It was going, no, that's her spiritual development. Can we make that provision? And that's the brief. But J Mars, you're right, and I suppose we could get into a huge thesis on dates and times and nature and syncretism and astrotheology. I mean, we've got enough material to talk for ages on these kind of things. But just for what happened here on the channel, Gigi spontaneously coming up with this, and us all kind of locking on and going, actually, that's a great idea, or you know, and I feel useful going, you know, being trained in this thing and getting up and giving a talk, and suddenly, Matt, can you do it? Yeah, I can. Are you willing? Yeah. It suddenly found like we were all united in some kind of purpose. And I think I also mentioned there imperfectly. You go, haven't got the complete answers. J Mars, yeah, maybe we're off. Maybe the whole solar thing, lunar thing is all off, and there is astrological slippage. I mean, we've identified all of that, and it's all completely wrong. But as humans, this is the best we can do.
And let me just say that the Organization of Jehovah's Witnesses have always made a big deal about having it on the accurate day that it happened 2,000 years ago. Okay, and we've noticed that they've kind of missed the mark a few times, but whatever. Scripture says, keep doing this in remembrance of me. So that can look like every 3 hours, once a month, every 3 months. You know, it could be once a year. Keep doing this in remembrance of me. Doesn't
Sheila
sound like.
says, sorry.
Go ahead.
Sheila says some people have a need for comfort, solace, hope for various reasons, perhaps for if a future occasion memorial could be altered to a reflecting or something similar. And I think that's what we're trying to achieve here. It's not, this isn't, I made it in the talk, this is not an institutional thing. This was because we got together as friends.
Yeah.
That's what this is. And it's a love, yeah.
Purple's been saying, like, I don't really get this, the JW thing. Let me put it to you this way, Purple, and I understand why it doesn't, make much sense to you. Picture it being like someone's birthday, and all of their friends showed up, and there was a cake made, and the birthday person never ate the cake, and neither did any of the guests.
Yeah.
Why? For some reason, we were unworthy, according to their mom, okay? And we did this every single year. Why? Because we were told by the adults when we were kids, it's the most important day of the year, and you need to be there.
That's right.
So we did this year by year by year by year, knowing that the rest of the world actually eats the cake. And that the rest of the world, when it's their birthday, they actually blow out candles and sometimes make a real mess of it.
That's true.
So a common ritual of celebration, you're used to it looking one way.
That's it.
And then it looks strangely, oddly, why would people not eat the cake? Some God reason you're not supposed to eat the cake. Okay? It's kind of like that. Okay?
Yeah.
In the realm of Christianity, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Purple's got the right calculation. The Vatican calculates the date for the Easter as the first Sunday following the first full moon. Yeah, that's correct. So it's not always that there is a moon out. In fact, that's what we found in research department. They're going, if there's a full moon, then it's nice and 14. No, not necessarily. Okay. It goes according to what Purple has pointed out. But again, that's one particular system. There's multiple systems here in calculating, and it does your head in. But what's happening in XJW or JW Emergent? You notice they have birthday time, like Fran and Joe says, whose birthday is it today?
Mm-hmm.
Or some are saying, you know what, I'm gonna have a Christmas tree this year. Or some say 4th of July on Jimmy's channel and Ruby. Guess what? We're setting off fireworks, guys. So I think what you said, it's kind of like that. Somebody had a need, said, you know what? I was denied this thing. That's what I heard from Gigi. She'd have to speak for herself. But what I heard from Gigi was, I was denied from this. You know what I'm going to do this year, Linda James? I'm going to drink that wine and I'm going to eat that bread because that it was a satanic symbol that came into the system that made.
Looks like you froze for a minute, but I'm waiting to see if it unfreezes.
Are we back?
There you are. Yes.
Okay. All right.
This part of we is back.
No, yeah. So I just got it that Gigi just wanted to just go, no, this is more of a symbol of liberation. It's more of a symbol of spiritual liberation or liberation from an oppressive system. That's what I got. But again, I can't speak for her. And that's why I said, what does it mean to you? What does
Yeah.
it mean?
And that's what I think. Those of us that have grown up around this, the way the organization told us it should look, we kind of, some of us could care less. Some of us really want the liberty and the freedom to take part in it or observe it, whatever. It's kind of a big deal, because having to go to a birthday party and nobody ever got to eat cake, and you were told you were unworthy. Come on. Come on, right? The Jesus of the Bible said to keep doing this in remembrance of me. People at that time got up and left because it implied cannibalism. So it wouldn't be the first time somebody was offended at the idea of drinking something that represented or symbolized Jesus' blood, or eating something that represented or symbolized Jesus' flesh.
Well, look, thanks for talking about it, Linda James. There was a little bit of an awkward thing, because I know that I said to you, look, let's do the bike thing and let's get it, but I just saw the time was going, and we don't often get to come together like this just to chat and go, have we worked it out according to what I'm going to use the word generally that was generally expected, and is there anything missing at this last moment? This is kind of like the window of opportunity just to get things in order, and maybe next year Gigi says she doesn't need to do this,
right? And it could turn into something that Purple has put together, which she didn't start off as being a Christmas thing. She started it off with, I don't want people to be alone on this particular day, because on this particular day, those that are alone, some of them, it's very, very hard for them to be alone this time of year. And so many people called it a Christmas thing. She just adopted it as being a Christmas thing. So that's what it turned into. But maybe in the future, if we want to do this again, maybe different people could take different shifts. I don't know. It's going to evolve, or it'll be let go. Who knows? But let's listen to the feedback and things like that. I suggest that you do not put up a video from the time that you were in the org, because I don't know if the script that you would have gone by would be considered something that would be legally unacceptable with the org.
Yeah, look, it is my talk, that
Okay.
thing. So, and it's not like I'm putting up the JW outline. It does fit the outline.
When you talked about before.
Yeah, it does fit the outline, and I have done it while I was assigned by the branch to go and give these things, or by the local elders when I was still in good favor.
Okay.
And it's not an old talk. I mean, it's a new talk, but and because I'm talking, it's my copyright.
Oh,
because remember what JW has done. They've gone, if Gerrit Loos is getting up there, and he says, we've reversed the blood policy. They can very easily go, that was Gerrit that did that. They can very easily cut you off. So excuse me for saying this, I feel rocks about it. And even if I did produce the memorial, guess what, Linda James? By their own mouth, I'm one of their genuine anointed Jehovah's Witnesses. I've paid. I've paid their getting rejection, and then coming into XJW Recovery and JW Emergent, I've paid there too, because they're going, gee, are you a Jehovah's Witness, Matt? Not comfortable with it. So I face rejection on all sides. So I go, I feel rocks about it. And technically speaking, I could make up the 2% that actually should be running JW org, whether I like it or not. I mean, that would be such a switcheroo, what life throws us, these curveballs.
Okay. So if it's asked, and I now hear the way you're seeing it, it wouldn't go against your conscience. And I just wanted to bring up that possibility. And what you're saying
because I feel free. I'm getting more free spiritually. I go,
sure.
with
I know that space. It's a really great space. I totally get it. I used to
I'm not trying to
I used to
deceive anybody.
I used to envision wearing a T-shirt that said "apostate." Praise the Lord. That was my thing,
I want that T-shirt.
right? So that
Yeah.
was, yeah, that was like so there was a video that came out in, I believe, the 80s called um Jehovah the Watchtower, I think, made by Jeremiah Films. And the couple that was in there, they had a car, and their license plate literally said um, something, some letters that PTL, praise the Lord, it stood for that. Because I got behind them after a thing that they went to where they showed that video. And I think it said XJW. Yes, it did. It said XJW, praise PTL. Yeah, that's what their license plate. So if you ever see that video, that video of that couple, they're a white couple, both are brunettes, Jehovah of the Watchtower. They like narrate it. That's what their license plate said. XJW
Okay.
P praise PLO. Praise the
We,
Lord.
we've got all
Wow.
these great products for your channel, Linda Jones. We've got
Right.
T-shirts, we've got number plates. I mean, we've got what's it, JW outlines and books and.
And you know what? Speaking of like, in my mind, I've been like, I don't care to monetize, and unless I absolutely have to, I just want things to grow. But I understand what people do. This is a service.
Linda James's merch, JW Mementos. When I was in Cup, get your JW hoodie here, or what's it?
Right.
Mark Sanderson face mask, or I don't know.
So the person who made my coffee cup that I've showed, I love emos. I was talking to them about a week or so ago and telling them about the incident, how you were promoting it, and I had no place to tell them to go to. And they said, I can make more. So we might have more in the future, we might not.
I've just read Dennis's comment, and I've just taken a sip.
Wear a T-shirt to the Kingdom Hall. That this is our Dallas, yes.
Yeah, Dallas. Okay, Dallas.
Fuck the meeting, or fuck field service, or fuck Watchtower. I'm just gonna add all three, or take your choice. Yeah.
Oh no, man. Anyway, okay, Dallas. Thank you for that.
Owen Morgan sells signs that say apostate.
So yeah, look,
So, yeah.
I had to face facts that could happen in the live stream. I've got to go. Okay, which I think is one of the reasons why it's good to separate the talk and say, look, that is on YouTube. You can play that thing, because the streaming space is like this. You can have anything happen. You can have what is it, a troll come on. You can have somebody going crazy or whatever coming on, and that's just life, folks. That's what happens. Linda James, I want to also mention I invited my parents to this thing.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I didn't get a response. I just I thought, you know what? Since we've generated this thing, let me get into the spirit of it. What would be the right thing? And I went, okay, I'm going to invite them. I'm going to tell them this is what I've done. And so I sent out my invitation. So thought I'd let you know.
This is a big deal. Okay, I will not be inviting my parents, as my mother's asked me every year for all this time. I've always said, sure, Mom, but I will partake. And that's where it ends. The thought of her being at a Kingdom Hall next to me and I partake will make her look very bad. Okay? That will mean she did not train me up in a way I should go. That's what that would say.
Crumbs. Yeah.
But I'd love the idea that you've invited them to this. That's actually pretty cool.
Well, Dallas, you've got a whole lot of ideas for other T-shirts. Maybe we can have that in another merch section. I don't know, but yeah, these are
So
some strong
should we
thoughts.
be in touch later to come up with how we're going to do the timing of it?
Linda James, yes, I'm going to say yes, please. And I'm glad you've mentioned it. And it's it's just for confidence.
We're doing this
and doing it together.
Mm-hmm. And we're gonna come up with stuff that really works well, and then we're gonna come up with stuff that really didn't, and then we'll do what is called after brief or something, and
Yeah.
Debriefing.
And if anybody's feeling like they're not inclusive, please feel free, if I may, Linda James, feel free to write on my channel and go, here's a comment, Matt, you didn't think of this, can you incorporate that? And I go, I can't promise anything, but I will do my best to consider it and just make sure your voice is heard. And if there is a way to incorporate it, I'm going to try and incorporate it somehow.
So J Mars says, I enjoyed the show. Are you going to do a live on Memorial Day? Question mark. Yep, that's actually what we're talking about. Doing
Good
a
question.
memorial.
You got it. That's exactly what we're doing.
The 2nd, but because Matthew's in South Africa, I'm here in Southern California. We don't know if it's going to all be in one day or maybe 2 days, but somehow we're going to put a few shows together of a video that Matthew has already made. So there won't be surprises, and to have that for those that want to go. And I'm going to be advertising it because some people have a need and want to be part of something like this. Other people could take it or leave it, you know?
Yeah. I don't know how I would do the 48 hours. I just don't know if I've got, I don't even know if I've got the stamina for one day. But,
Right.
The intention was to try.
Maybe we're just going to do it for one time, one scheduled time, and whoever sees it later, they put their comments. That's the way this show is done every week.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong.
So maybe there's a bit of homework for the community is just check if the calculation is correct. Check with your AIs or check with the way you calculate. But it looks like if we go according to when things are scheduled Nisan 14, that it actually starts sundown 1st of April.
Okay.
But open to correction on this one. That might be a mistake, and bear in mind that there's ways of interpreting this. So maybe J Mars's way of saying, well, it should be a 48-hour window. I'm going, yeah, technically speaking, you're correct, but I mean, how scholarly do we want to be with this thing as well? I mean, we could also say, well, in 7 days you can repeat it. Remember, there's a provision for the anointed. If they don't get to partake on that day, it happens 7 days later. I mean, where do you stop? Where do you end? I
don't know. I never heard of that.
Yeah. So
Purple is asking, so what day and time will it start? So your sundown in South Africa will be different than my sundown, and I think whatever works best for you, because you're doing this, we would go by that.
Yeah, I think I did put on my channel on the post section. I've got there. What does this day mean to you? And then if you take a look in the notes on my post section, it says, when does Nisan 14 begin? It says Nisan 14 begins at sunset, not midnight, and it corresponds to April 2nd Gregorian calendar, and it begins sunset on April 1st in the earliest time zones on Earth. And it is the Kiribati Line Islands UTC plus 14 and parts of New Zealand, which is where your international date line is, UTC plus 13. And it corresponds to April 1st around 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock. It's not exact. 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock, UTC plus 14, which is April 1st, 6 o'clock in South African time. So for anybody where that was a bit much, it's in my post section where there is the advert called Remembering Supreme Love. So if you just take a look at the notes on my post, it's there. And I think I also put it in the description for the actual talk. I copied and pasted it there. So for anybody who wants to look at the logic for the international date time and the first, which remember the sundown is when it occurs. So it's not the actual day, it's not midnight. So the first, though technically it's on the first, sundown happens on the 1st of April in New Zealand or those islands that I mentioned. I can't remember the name, but it happens on the 1st there. So for anybody who's going, oh, where can I check it? It's in the notes on the video. It's in the description on the YouTube video. It's also on the TikTok. It's also on the Rumble. It's also in the post section where the advert is, or the memorial invitation is, or the remembrance invitation is. It's in the notes. Is anybody lost?
Okay. So it should be in the description. Yes.
Yeah.
Now there I can actually copy it. So if I wanted to make a post somewhere, I have found that things that are in a description under videos, I actually can select it all and copy it.
Yeah. And then if you want to have, if you want to feel like it's JW with an invitation, there's a picture of bread and wine, remembering supreme love with Nice and 14, April 2nd. You are invited, so you can feel, this is the kind of thing we would have distributed. And then above that has got all of those, when does Nice and 14 begin? In fact, you know what? I'm going to copy it and I'm going to put it in the live chat.
Is the link?
Oh, yeah, I can put the link. Why don't I just put the link? Duh.
No, but
that's what that's for.
See, this is why we're talking about it, because simple things like this, we get all detail oriented and forget, oh yeah, we need this.
Okay, here we go. Here's the magic of technology, folks. Boing! It's now in Linda James's chat.
Cool.
But that doesn't take you to the video. It takes you just to the advert on my channel, Linda James. So thank you for graciously, letting me do that. I've just gone ahead and done it. And then for the actual, I'll tell you what, may I post the video link? You've got an opening song, but I'm going to share with everybody the link to the main video, right? I mean, would that would be useful, right?
Yes, please.
Okay, so let me do that. I'm just going to go into a studio, YouTube Studio, and I'm just going to grab the content link, Memorial of Jesus Christ. It should be a short little link. And here it is, folks. It's a small one. So above is the talk link.
Awesome.
And then for the music is as follows. The opening song is this. And then the closing song is this one. Okay, Linda James, this looks like we are pretty much up to date on that. Closing song. Prayers or invocations, right? So invocations, where is that? That is on the post section, and I can point persons towards that on the channel as well. So remember, we were discussing, what do you say about prayers or invocations, if you don't want to call it prayers? And I haven't gone in Jesus' name, amen, or anything like that, just to be the most inclusive. So the invocation, benedictions, and I'm going to put in brackets prayers for bread, wine, and meeting is this.
Cool.
Sheila says, will these still show when this chat ends?
In a day. Directly after this chat ends, it's very hard to retrieve the chat right away. So maybe in about 5 to 10 hours, you'll be able to retrieve it.
Yeah,
You'll
because what YouTube does this 24-hour processing, right?
I think so. So you should be able to have access to it tomorrow for sure. I'm not sure what the time span is when you can get it.
So Sheila raises a good point. How do we make it available to everybody? Go to my channel.
So I'm gonna do a post where I do posts on YouTube. Let's see here.
Yeah.
But
So I'll tell you what, Linda James. I'll populate. I'll also put something in the comments section when the stream ends. So it's not in the live chat because I know that YouTube kind of works on it. I'll just put. I've got more homework now.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll put it in your comments, and then if you want to take it up and make your flyers or whatever, or if you want to use mine, you're very welcome to. Okay. And my email is on my channel. It's my name, Matthew Millet Gray at gmail.com. So anybody who's got questions.
So I've just copied certain things, the link to the video and everything that you put, all that stuff. So I'm going to put the link to it at the bottom. Now I'm going to copy it all and put it on my channel where I can make a post on my channel. Select all, copy.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if it's just easy to do this. You know, Linda James, I'm putting in the live chat that under YouTube, that's my handle at Matthew Millet Gray. Maybe that's what having these big long YouTube links might be a bit problematic, but just to go, well, that's the channel. I don't know, whatever's simpler. And Linda James, the other thing too, if you want a copy of this video to put on your channel, because I'm not necessarily promoting my channel, it's just the provision, I'll give you the video. Okay. I don't mind. I'm not possessive over this thing. If you want the video and you want to post it on your channel, that's great. I just don't know how YouTube deals with copyright or repeating media. I just don't know.
Well, what I have been noticing is people that are using like live streams, people will be streaming it on their channel and then their guest will be streaming it on their channel as well. Ruby and Jimmy do that. Okay. So that could be done that day. So I don't see anything. I don't see anything wrong with having this on my channel for copyright. I think you have to put it in for copyright, but I don't know. I just put it in the area where I can make posts.
Yeah, let's stream it for the day, and whatever bridge we need to cross, we cross. But I don't mind. I don't mind if it's your video. I'm not possessed. I take it as ours. Belongs to us.
That's an honor.
So, yeah. So it's not like, oh, it's got to stay on my channel.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm responsible for it. I take responsibility for it. But if you want it on your channel, you've all witnessed Linda James is most welcome to have it, and she's welcome to have the music,
Thank you.
And that music is mine. It doesn't, there's this thing Udio or Suno. It's not those. Okay. It's not. It's I also made sure that I was very careful with music. No, it's not. It's none of those things. Those I've got the rights to this thing. So yeah,
Alrighty then. Well, I think we can finish up unless you can think of something else.
sure. That was a lot of organizing. I feel like I'm in jw.org. I mean, sure. Hello. It was like an elders meeting. Do you want to close the meeting in prayer, Linda James, and have a few words? Anyway, I'm going to say thank you very much, and good being with you. And I intend to be in the after chat, but I also know that you like to close up with some wise words. So I'm going to say thank you to everybody. Just to answer Mage Grey Wolf, no, I didn't use Suno and I didn't use Udio, but that's an interesting point. Thanks for that. But I'm going to say thank you to everybody for listening, and thank you for being a gracious host, Linda James. I'm going to sign off and wish everybody a great week and a happy remembering supreme love, because that's what this is about. So thank you very much. And thanks for the buzz of all the discussion and the arrangement and the idea. Let's see what happens. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, let's. Thank you, Matthew, for joining me. So to say goodnight, I am so glad that Gail set up the idea of having a memorial. She wanted to go to one, and that Matthew and I thought that was such a great idea. We've come up with plans to do it. He's already made the video, and that's something anybody can view. I have put it on my channel where I do posts on my YouTube channel. So anybody can get the link from there or go to Matthew's channel and see it there. Thank you so much for being here tonight, everybody in the chat, anybody that's listening later on. And if you found any value in tonight's video, please like it and please share it. It really makes a difference in the algorithm. I have found that many people are having a very tough time with how things are going with their videos. So this kind of support really does make a difference. So thank you so much. This is truly a highlight of my week, and I appreciate each and every one of you. So thank you for being here, and I will see you next week or sooner at the memorial. Good night.